Welcome back to Nightmind, friends. It's been a while, I know, and it's because this video took a little extra time and dedication to make, which you could probably tell. I don't want to spend too much time on our greetings. I am very excited this evening. If you'll allow me to get ahead of myself just a touch. This is the greatest project I could open the year with on Nightmind, and one of the most important videos I'll ever make. To illustrate why, I've got to lay out a bit of background. On February 1st, 2022, I received a submission to the Nightmind Index for new and undiscovered unfiction projects for a horror series by Squeaks titled Broadside Beach, an active investigation into the abandoned animation studio known as Broadside Animation. Their venture into theme parks ends in catastrophe for everyone involved, and 30 years later, the mystery has resurfaced and is being looked into. 2 videos were provided: a roundup of in-universe media conveying story elements from November 14th, 2021, several months before the submission date, and gameplay of a cancelled Nintendo 64 title from September 7th of 2021. The gameplay video is nothing impressive technically or visually, and if it had existed, it almost certainly would have been an alpha build of whatever the title was meant to be. I published Broadside Beach to the index with a smile, making a note to check in on it periodically. The creator appeared to be new to unfiction projects, and the inspiration for the series was clear enough for anybody to see. But with this amount of effort, the choice to use a different setup for a kids' entertainment horror concept, and the passion on display, there was potential for future uploads to gain a lot of quality. It was just a sense I had. Broadside Beach was worth keeping an eye on, but I'd have to come back later. On January 1st of this year, Squeaks released a new horror game on Steam, Shipwrecked 64, a playable, polished realization of the idea presented over 2 years prior as Broadside Beach. An excerpt from the back of the original Shipwrecked box reads as follows: Bucky and his friends need your help. After a sudden crash during a routine fishing trip, Bucky ends up on a mysterious island where his friends appear to be apprehended by a pack of wolves for disturbing the peace. Embark on a puzzle-based adventure as Bucky wanders the vast island of Nulla Terra, helping his friends work off the damages, fix your boat, and get back home. Shipwrecked, or Shipwrecked 64 as the internet has dubbed it, was an old game originating from the late 90s, commissioned by the, at the time, beloved Broadside Animation Studio, developed by a relatively unknown game studio, Cogware Games. The game had a very mysterious nature surrounding its launch, as it was only available from August 13th, 1997 to August 17th, 1997, receiving little promotion from Cogware and none from Broadside. This downloadable version of the game is the closest one can get to playing the original copy. We at the SWRC, Shipwreck Recovery Crew, were lucky enough to get our hands on an original cartridge, dump it, and convert a lot of the code to new software. With help from 2 of the original developers, we were able to make this game accessible to everyone. I played Shipwrecked 64 live a few weeks after release to see what Broadside Beach had turned into. What started as a one-night curiosity turned into a 3-night marathon, the best scares I've ever had playing a game live, and an entire exploration on my own time after completing the main run. I have unlocked every achievement, played over 40 hours on record, and collected over 180 gigabytes of footage. Even now, I want more Shipwrecked 64. Leaving the investigation process to begin scripting was actually bittersweet. There are very few projects on Nightmind that have ever given me that feeling. Welcome Home, Catastrophe Crow, I Am Sophie, House of Leaves, and This House Has People in It. Shipwrecked 64 is the greatest gruesome horror project in the category of This Game I Found stories I've ever seen. A lost title you can actually play, and one of the most dedicated ARG pursuits I've seen in years. The most predictable thing you'd expect from me at this point in a video is exactly what I'm going to say. If you're interested in this at all, and you've got the fortitude for horror games or want to see if you do, play Shipwrecked 64 before continuing with this video. Go, get on Steam, buy the game. I've put the link in the video description. When it opens, play the 2023 edition, get a good ending, then go to New Game for the 1997 edition. That's where the ride is, and do exactly what it tells you at the start. Don't play it the way you play 2023. Think outside the box. Indulge your curiosity. And if you get stuck, come back here. This video exists in 2 parts, segmented by YouTube's chapter system. The first is a pure playthrough guide, which runs from Layer 0 through Layer 5, and includes specific segments titled for precise bookmarking. I'll show you how to proceed so you can move forward on your own, and you can keep returning to get unstuck if you need to. No spoilers for the gold. You've got room to find lore and enjoy secret discovery as a natural player experience, because I'm putting those in the second part of the video, starting at Layer 6. I'll even tell you how to survive, so you'll get to enjoy the scares without being absolutely destroyed. Unless you want the full jolt, in which case, charge on at any point, and only reference the guide once you hit a wall. And there are moments where you really might need to. This is not an easy game to play at certain points if you don't have an intuitive moment or a hint. ARG difficulty went into this one. Again, the link is in the video description. If you have the taste for games like this, if you're able to do so physically and mentally, then do it. Please do it. Even if you need to have a friend sit with you over Discord while streaming the gameplay, even if you have to play it as a streamer and keep talking with chat, even if you have to play in the daytime with the window curtains open, and if you've got a controller for your PC, use it. This is a landmark moment for horror unfiction and indie horror games, and I'd like you to be part of it. Give Shipwrecked 64 a shot. And remember, this is not a journey easily conducted alone. So if I'm all you've got, I'll be your companion in the darkness, even here. Come back whenever you need. And it goes without saying, but if you really cannot endure horror games without playthrough videos, then please enjoy the longest dedicated scripted video I've ever made on a topic in the history of Nightmind thus far. And even I'm surprised I'm saying that. I'm officially one of those ridiculously long video essay guys now if I somehow wasn't before, huh? Only you, Shipwrecked 64. Only you. If you've completed the game or seen a playthrough all the way to the true ending, hover over the timeline and begin this video at the second part labeled Layer 6, Secrets and Mysteries, or just open the chapter system in the video description. All the big things to talk about, along with lore exploration and piecing together the story. Any important audio logs, notes, and discoveries will be included there, not in the playthrough section. Layer 7 is a review and critique of Shipwrecked 64's design as a horror game and unfiction experience, and how the components work. Layer 8 is a history of its development, a story well worth knowing. And now that you have the guideposts, it's time to put the cartridge into the console. The backstory given on the Steam page is hinted at during the game, and the developers designed it with 2 versions. 2023, the way the game was intended to be in its conception, and 1997, which is what ended up on store shelves, unlocked after completing 2023. Both versions begin with the same faithful restoration of the title screen. Players then find themselves in the walkable menu. You can select New Game or continue from a save. Behind Bucky, you have settings and any bonuses you've collected. On the wall is an interesting drawing by Liz B. You can stop the music here by interacting with the tape recorder on the bed and enjoy the glow of the computer on the table. In the settings, you can make an interesting choice. Online Play, which opens the door for a special friend. If you go through with this, the chance of it happening is very rare, but from what I've heard, it's not scary, just helpful. You can also choose the CRT effect, which is awesome, and your choice of button mapping for authenticity. Outside, you can enjoy the view of the water and the skybox, or go back to the title screen. When ready, proceed with new game. Brand new players will not see 1997 filled in, just 2023. Shipwrecked as it was intended to be, recreated using a game design doc and older assets. Lock in the choice, and off you go, with a bit of background by the dev team after the trailer.
Hey, everyone! I need your help!
Step into the 3D realm with Bucky and his friends. Explore a vast open island, and hopefully bring your friends back to safety.
So what do you say, buddy? Let's go rescue the gang!
Hello, welcome to Shipwrecked 64, 2023. Shipwrecked 64 was meant to release in 1997, but was pulled after 3 days, for reasons we now know. We have been working on trying to restore the game. This is the closest possible thing to a finished copy. We were able to transfer most of the game to new software, but had to fill some gaps ourselves. This version of the game is mostly clean. We're introduced to day 1 on the island from the edge of the beach, and Bucky talks to us, his new friend, about his predicament, and controls, naturally. The first stop is the door immediately ahead, in a place called the Hull. It's where you sleep at midnight each day. Working to save your friends moves time forward, and you'll at least end up on day 2 in a flawless run. There are 2 main areas outside the beach, the living quarters and the park, where you'll find your friends, all of whom have tasks to appease the wolves living on the island. They have nothing happy to say, because the local volcano has become active and will erupt in a matter of days, giving you extra reason to get out of here quick. A word before we get started. There are chests throughout the game you'll encounter that unlock secrets in the bonus area of the walkable hub. They're all images, only a few important for the lore, and I have forgotten specific locations for most of them since they disappear after initial playthrough, but it's not of consequence. You're going to find most on your own by natural progression. We'll go over the secrets that stack in the bonus area later in the video after the playthrough guide. And most secrets of major importance are the lore elements within the game. You're not missing out, really. Just open any chest you see whenever they appear. In the living quarters, you'll find Walter Walrus, who got one of your party's boats stuck in the local dam. Get the gates open, and you can free it. You just have to stay still if it suddenly gets dark, and Walter doesn't have an explanation why. Players may find this level the most challenging. It's all platforming. Wall jumps, spatial judgment, rotating platforms. It's not ridiculously hard, but it takes realizing you can build up speed by running and assist your movement by leaning into the walls you're jumping at. Go down the hallways and platform your way to a switch at the end of each area to open 3 underwater gates. Then hop in the boat and sail out to free Walter. Giovanni Goose is inside the theater, hanging out in the back. The theater door is at the end of the wide path in the living quarters. Giovanni's an irritable chef put on kitchen duty, but apparently can't turn dials because of his wings. Odd excuse for why he needs Bucky, but flimsy scenarios to help characters in silly situations were common in Nintendo 64 games, so it's very on point in its design. To help Giovanni, just run around and interact with the ovens once they turn red. Smoke will be an indicator to help you see them. Get all the ovens, and your goose won't be cooked. Olive Otter is in the park, near a cabin. Her debt to the wolves is collecting coconuts, and you're going to help. Actually, you're going to do it yourself while Olive just follows you around. Open chests and slap trees to shake them loose, collecting 30 before time's up. So that's all your friends taken care of, but you're not free yet. Head to Town Hall, located in the park, to meet Chief Wulf, who knows where the remains of your other boat ended up. Apparently, the 4 of you came here in 2 boats. You'll need to collect the pieces in Slumber Woods, and can find them by using an admittedly modern touch found in most games now, making the developers back in the 90s incredibly forward-thinking. Bucky says to use the Z button, but for those of you on controller, it's the left trigger to highlight your boat pieces. Pick them up and drop them in the parts bin while avoiding the local horned rabbit skull monster named Horns. Once you get them all, Chief Wulf will promise to fix it up, and on your way out, you can look past the gate in the hall to see... Wow, what the hell happened to him? Is that a blue rabbit with bones sticking out of his arms? How did this end up in a game on the market for a major company dealing with children's animations? Anyway, you can do the tasks in any order, and once finished, Bucky will tell you that you're good to go and can head back to the boat, at which point you'll be given a choice. Leave the island now, which will give you a basic ending showing your 4 characters sailing away on the 2 boats you came in with, leaving all the wolves to die when the volcano erupts. Or you can keep exploring, as long as you watch the time, because, active volcano. If you choose to keep exploring, Bucky will suggest you return to Town Hall. Take him up on it, and you'll find that odd blue rabbit is open to talk to now. This is Stumbler O'Hare, who used to live in town until he was disarmed. You can guess how. He's an artist who wants to impress a girl rabbit he's seen around, but could use some help. So you go with him to a cave system to collect ink for his work, and to help him keep his canvas from falling over. Stumbler is the only character with fully voiced lines out of everyone you'll meet. An interesting touch. Now that he's done, Stumbler plans to put up his art piece in the theater. Meet him over there, and he'll thank you again for your help. Then remember he left some pieces in Town Hall. So you run right back and meet... a blue beaver? No, not quite a beaver. Interesting look, though. This is JD, and he has a secret. There's a whole barge on the island, but the only way to get there is through the volcano. He can lead you, and you can save the island. Only you, though. They never let him do it. This will activate a time platforming run. Real final level stuff, very classic. If you haven't learned the momentum, speed, and cliff climbing mechanics yet, you're getting a trial by fire and lava. If you fall, you start from the beginning as expected. Complete it in time and JD will show you the barge, big enough to save everyone. And there you are. Island saved, including the wolves, the true good ending. But here's a question. Can you fail the games all the way into day 5? Yes, actually. Spend your coconut gathering task, slapping Olive for being lazy like a delinquent until the penalties knock the timer out. Let Giovanni's ovens blow up with a smile like a little pyromaniac. And step out of line when the screen goes dark while rescuing Walter's boat to get hooked and dragged off screen like a fish to fry. All leading to Volcano Day. Mess around in the last few hours and... So, that does it for 2023. 2 boats for an ending with your crew, the bad ending with everyone submerged in lava, or the barge ending with everyone saved. What you really care about, though, is your ending. Unlocking version 1997. Now the fun begins.
Hey, everyone! I need your help! So what do you say, buddy? Let's go rescue the gang!
Welcome to Shipwrecked 64, 1997. Information on the game has been very sparse since its soft launch in 1997. The game would not work on any emulators, but after some tinkering, we built our own for this game. Developed by Cogware Games, 2 ex-devs helped us create this version. This game may have some glitches or artifacts. It is not for the faint of heart. This is exactly how we found the game. Unaltered. And then we launch into Shipwrecked on the edge of the beach. Bucky gives us the same rundown, and we're free to go. Examining the beach, nothing looks different. Easy enough to just proceed to the living quarters or the park. Once in either area, you may notice a change related to an item of curiosity from earlier. Locked doors that were never used in the 2023 run have signs next to them. Go ahead, approach one. Try to read the sign.
International at 1530 wind 230 degrees 7 knots. Cabin closed. Temperature 33.1.
What was that? Security footage of some big blue creature, like one of the suits we saw in the trailer for Shipwrecked. And the language on the sign, definitely not legible on first read. There's immediately more here than the original design document planned. Run to the other locked door in the park, now with its own sign, and the language is similar. No footage this time, but the music slows down and almost falls out of beat. The first elements that suggest why this game may have been removed from shelves 3 days after launch have shown up. Signs in these locations suggest we should be able to access these doors, even if we can't read the language. But how? Attempting either of the good endings in this version leads to both good endings, undisturbed. You can leave with your friends, or you can leave with everyone on the barge. But suppose you're a completionist in 1997 who only has access to this version and wants to see the bad ending, or you're still figuring out mechanics. Suppose you're just not that good a player, or you're a child who's not quite getting the hang of things right away. The easiest minigame to slip on would be Walters, right? Easy enough to miss the cue to stop by a second too late when the lights go out. Those hooks are sharp, huh? Walter says. I know you've got this though. Come on, you can do it. So of course you try again, and... Hold on. Did you catch that in the skybox? Let's roll that back a moment. Someone's head watching you from all the way down the path, beyond the horizon. But that's not all. Did you see a difference for the hook animation this time? That's blood. No mistake about it. And from our perspective the first time, it was hard to catch, but slow it down enough, and you see it. Now we've got to go back. There was something there, and as a player, you're deeply curious. We approach Walter again, and he goes through his welcome script for just a couple of lines. Are you paying attention? Hello? You're just skipping past all of this, aren't you? You're as inconsiderate as I remember. Almost funny if it weren't for the circumstances. We've got exploring to do though, but move too fast and you're hooked a third time, leading to a black screen for just a little too long. And Walter is gone. It's not even midnight. He's just gone, period. Right after seeing Bucky the mascot looking over someone to the sound of tearing meat. The previously locked door with the odd sign is now open to us, but you have options. Failing Walter's game changed the experience, brought us a cutscene, and unlocked this door. What would happen if we visited someone else and failed their game? At this point, you're able to charge on ahead and enjoy every act of discovery and all the surprises. You've seen precisely what happened just now. A minigame was failed 3 times, a scene played, and a door unlocked nearby. Maybe something else even unlocked around here. Maybe not technically a door, but like a door. You can proceed with this information however you like. Explore your options to your heart's content, and return here if you get stuck. Once again, I've labeled segments of the YouTube timeline for this video to help you find precisely which area you've hit a wall at. As for those who still want to follow along, when it comes to minigames to fail, who would be fastest? Olive, right? We can make that clock move ourselves. So over to Olive into the game and we slap the timer down. On exit, we try again, entering the coconut area, and there's only one action that makes sense.
Hey, watch it! Hey, watch it! Hey, watch it!
Hello, we are not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
You showed up at the door again. I don't know what to do. Something about us just felt wrong. You showed up at the door again. I don't know what to do.
Immediately, there's a lot to analyze. The location, the footage, that thing on the side at the very end. Again, Bucky as a mascot outfit is at the center of someone's vision, and the context is clearer than ever. He showed up at the door again. I don't know what to do. Something about him just felt wrong. And then Olivia, the caller, was attacked. The end piece on the side of the screen. It looks like a much more horrifying Olive Otter, doesn't it? Return to the island and try Olive's script. Shards of glass were stuck everywhere. A thick trail stretched from the broken window, and it led directly into the water. Oscar, Lima, India, Victor, India, Alpha. Olivia, spelled out using NATO's phonetic alphabet. Entering her minigame again, you realize there are no trees to finish the count, and Olive is slow to follow you. With no other option, you finish what you started, becoming the Bucky in the video you witnessed.
Watch it!
Now Olive is gone too. The pieces are easy to put together. Olivia, the caller, must have been the mascot actor for Olive Otter, brutalized by Bucky's actor and drowned outside her residence. But in what context? And why? And what does that mean for Walter? Was Bucky the last thing he saw while he was mutilated? That sound of tearing flesh. The locked door near Olive is open now too, but there's one more character in Bucky's friend group. After a scene like that, we can't leave it be. We run to Giovanni Goose, but not to help him. On the way through the theater, you'll see a film. Stumbler holding some kind of large doll, making a sudden movement and a distortion of Olive? The Olive we saw a flash of though, like an eyeless corpse of her, bloated from the lake. And again, Bucky emerging from the shadows in an office setting. The scene repeats. We head to Giovanni, convince him we're offering a hand in the kitchen. We let the ovens explode. We come back, then do it again. And after the second time, he won't talk to us. Try the prompt again and again, and his script isn't activating. We've had hints of violence in failing the other minigames, but that was absolutely brutal. Bloody, savage murder. What could even come after a third failure with a character like this? We try him again, and his audio is distorted. And Giovanni is gone too. The way things went with him and Olive, we can assume the worst for Walter. And the nature of what we saw with Giovanni, security camera footage with a date, spells it out for us. At the very start of January 1990, someone wearing the Bucky costume committed at least 3 murders, including another character actor. It's unknown yet if it all occurred the same day or why. But we do know we're playing a character whose history includes being the costume for a very violent slasher. So, we know there are at least 2 other characters we could interact with. Is there anything with Chief Wulf or Stumbler? Play Chief Wulf's minigame and you might get a surprise. Burning ship parts. Run into horns 3 times and on the 3rd, you get what you're after. Chief Wulf asks what you're doing here, and if you want answers. He says there's nothing for you here, but he'd feel bad if you left empty-handed, so he's leaving you a treat to check out on someone else's level. When you return, you'll find Chief Wulf gone. And as for the treats, it's the vision overlay on the left trigger, which comes in handy for Stumbler's level in trying to collect all the ink jars. And something else, actually, which isn't on our path for this playthrough, but we'll return to it in the Secrets and Mysteries run. What we need to see regarding Stumbler is if it's even possible to fail his minigame. And it is, but you'll find some things waiting for you on entry. This is one of the brilliant horrors of the 1997 version. Once you fail a character's minigame, one of their elements will show up in others. Olive will follow you around, eyeless. Giovanni's ovens will appear and explode. Walter's lights out moments will occur. Sometimes you get more than one. Bucky's murders haunt him, and you. As for failing Stumbler, it turns out you can. The doll from the projector video reappears, and Stumbler isn't dead, nor is Bucky present. A new mystery for us. As with the others, that clears Stumbler from access, but it won't unlock the door in Town Hall. Nothing unlocks that door to the best of my knowledge at this moment. Don't drive yourself mad trying to open it. Instead, you have some unlocked doors you can open. Everyone else is gone. It's just you and whatever's down there. From this point, you're able to go off on your own again, exploring the unlocked doors. And one of the easiest paths for learning how this game's going to work going forward is to use Giovanni's unlocked door, heading all the way through until you discover you suddenly have a lot of reading that will be very helpful. Things become rather logical from there and allow progression, even if a moment hits while exploring where you just can't seem to get a clue. If you're going with the guide for this, though, let's go in order of how we saw our friends off. The door near the place Walter used to be opens to another beach. This area is the Waterway, connected to the dam where he lost his boat. In one spot to the right, you'll find a unique room with blue paneling containing a trophy head of horns, a mirror, a poster and note, and a wolf on a bed, who's died. The note is about obelisks and reads, "Today, me and Liz were listening to music. Suddenly the song changed and a loud rumbling was heard. 3 large obelisks began to rise from the water. Golden statues of the 3 pure souls rested on top." The poster is of Walter, advertising meet and greets at Frontier Street from 6 to 8 p.m., Tuesday and Friday, only at studio grounds. Copyright Broadside 1996. Further down, past some bunk beds, you'll find a door. The lights are off inside, but among all the computers, you'll see a closet. In there is a switch to power the whole room, turning on the lights and computers. One in particular is worth watching. A false wall, halfway along the boat ride from this beach. Okay, clear progression path. What else can we check out first? If we head back to the first beach and take the other way to the left through the door, we find a room with canvases, the first of which falls over, depicting a rabbit. On the wall is a drawing, the same from the menu area by Liz B. Go through the lower door, and you'll encounter a walkway and chalkboard. It's all interesting, but in different ways. Hate mark on the right side, a rabbit in the middle, and on the left, RXBC and some rows under the letters. That one word, not, suggests someone was trying something here and didn't get it right. Remember this board. The end of the walkway presents a door, leading into a very open green space. There's nothing of use here at the moment, so return to the Waterway and the canvas room. Another door is here at the top of the stairs, allowing you onto the walkway for this side. Down the path is an open entrance to some cabins and a tape recorder on the wall. Code is RXBC.
Romeo, Lima, Romeo, X-ray, Romeo, Bravo, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie.
Interesting. Now, follow the video we saw earlier and jump from the boat at the false wall, then up the wall jumping section, past some wolves out of reach. Explore the upper area to see a keypad and a gate. There's a fence wall overlooking the cabins we just visited, with the tape recorder, a subtle hint about what to do. We have a 4-digit keypad, a chalkboard with RXBC over 4 columns, and a tape recorder that said, "Code is RXBC," reading off NATO alphabet speech. These 3 things go together. For this, you'll need something to write down what you hear. The solution is to have the recording laid out in front of you, then count the amount of times you hear Romeo, X-Ray, Bravo, and Charlie.
Romeo, Lima, Romeo, X-Ray, Romeo, Bravo.
The first digit to the keypad is the count for Romeo, the second for X-Ray, and so on, all leading to 6224. Head through the gate and the door, and find yourself on the walkway between the sides of the building over the water. At the end, hit the switch. There you go, 3 obelisks. And as you come back, something odd on the upper layer. A new statue? Back on the beach, boat side, we get a good look at the obelisks, which resemble Liz's drawing. Stumbler, Chief Wulf, and JD. Take the boat over, jump between the open spaces in the obelisks, and access the door in JD's. It's a long spiral staircase down, but not long enough to annoy you as a player. Just keep running and you'll reach the door at the bottom in about 20 seconds or less. Through here, you'll find evidence of the original developers, Cogware Games. There's one more gate and one more door. Just get to the other side of the small Chief Wulf statue, hit the button near the golden computer, and you're all set. Through here is a new kind of hub, and evidence of 2 more areas to pass through. Easy enough to figure out. They're the other 2 doors unlocked on the upper side, where Olive and Giovanni used to be. You'll probably find the first time you enter that Bucky has something to say. The smell's atrocious. We should leave. We should save. Yeah, we don't gotta walk back. You can open the menu and hit respawn, and we'll be on our merry way. If you do this, Bucky will thank you when you respawn above. Or you can ignore him and charge through the next door, prompting him to protest with angry eyes. He really doesn't want to be down here. Lucky for Bucky, we're headed back up. There are 2 locked doors waiting for us, and the order doesn't matter. We'll follow the pattern of our kills just to keep things symmetrical. Return to Olive's area and head through the door, leading down a flight of stairs into the pool, as the art of Olive says on the wall. Around the corner, an area is gated off, redirecting you to the only accessible door, through a room of computers and lockers and into a space with a few options for entry. The first door we'll take leads to an odd space. A Bucky statue, a poster for pool rules, a code on the wall, and a tape recorder between 2 computers. Was that Chief Wulf walking down the waterway with another wolf? Wonder what they're up to. Code is ECDC, huh? In a room with a recorder playing the tune for Hot Cross Buns. Next, go to the prior room and head to the right, finding a switch. Pressing it must do something, though it's not immediately obvious. Upstairs, we go through a locker room into a new area, and a side locker room has a door into the previously gated area. That must have been what the switch unlocked. Head through into the other door, and we'll find ourselves back in the open green area with a tape recorder.
Hello, this is Wulf. I was using one of the Silvertech computers around the place, and would you look at what I found? Online, they have a bunch of sheet music everywhere, so I could just take one, print it off, and play it on my piano. It's lovely. I found this one song I want to try. It's called
Sheet music on a piano. A tape recording of Hot Cross Buns. Code is ECDC. As with the Waterway, the pieces go together. But this takes looking up the sheet music for Hot Cross Buns, which Wulf was trying to say. Variations of it do use the notes E, C, and D. Count the notes in the section we heard, and what's the result? 3 E notes, 7 C notes, 7 D notes. 3, 7, 7, 7. Now, where's a keypad we can put that into? Return to the white-walled area and go through the waterfall, an old video game classic. Head down and through another waterfall, then do some wall jumping with the smaller one. Up top, round the corner, and there's your keypad. Enter the code 3777. Then you're free to use your wall jumping skills in the next area to reach the exit above. Remember, momentum is your friend. Use running speed to start and lean into the walls as you jump, timing the button press every time you land and using the thumbstick to lead Bucky in the next direction. And just like that, you're back to the odd room from before, the pool fully unlocked. Giovanni's area remains, the door just behind where he was standing. There may be a surprise waiting for you in the theater from the projection when you enter. A scroll of the character mascot outfits, looking like nightmares. The appearance of the next area doesn't do well to settle disquieting feelings from seeing this. An aggressively red and isolated restaurant, full of tables, but devoid of guests. If you take a look at the few plates around, you may spot something funny and gruesome. Head past the main table area down a corridor until you see a ledge with a door, at the base of which are 2 tables, one with a coconut. A little 3-jump movement here will get you to cliffhang, and from there you can proceed. The skywalkway here is easy enough to traverse, and a surprise waits through the door at the end. A gallery, which even has patrons. The door on the side grants access to the open green area, but nothing of use. Head back to the gallery area and take a look at the art on display. Really take notice of the pieces depicting numbers and the colors they are. The keypad in this area unlocks a gate with a 4-colored banner. Red, blue, blue, green. From the art, you would associate red with 8, blue with 3, and green with 9. So, follow the pattern 8339, and you've opened that gate. Next is a single red banner. Only one logical thing to try, right? All 8s, and yes, you're allowed in. Don't worry so much about the audio in this hallway. It's an echo of what you'll hear much more clearly in the room at the end. Welcome to the Frontier Street Museum, a small collection of items related to Bucky Beaver and his history. Selecting any of the notes on the walls will tell you about the piece next to it, and that audio over the speaker gives us some history on Bucky, his friends, why they have mascot costumes, and a man named Rex. In quick summation, Bucky and his friends are cartoon characters made by the animator Rex after he sold his first hit creation, a rabbit named Blot, to a company who ended up owning the intellectual property rights. With Bucky and his friends, Rex actually retained the rights and had legal power, which turned his career around. 2 theme parks followed based on Broadside's works. Broadside Beach, an island destination accessible via cruise ship, and the much more practical Studio Grounds. We know from the poster of Walter that Studio Grounds was operating in 1996. We know from the footage of Giovanni's murder that Bucky the Slasher committed his killing spree in January 1990. Was this at Broadside Beach or Studio Grounds? Funny how the game we're playing takes place on an island, right? Like the Broadside Beach attraction. In fact, what did we just use to get down here? A theater, a diner, then a gallery, and now a museum dedicated to Broadside's history. Also on the island are a waterway, dam, and a pool connected to a park. Seems pretty reflective of a theme park's layout, especially for an island. Another note. Rex, the animator, died in the 80s due to unknown circumstances. What exactly happened to him? While thinking that over, find the switch in this area, give it a click, and watch a gate in the diner lift away. Return there and go into the newly accessible door, leading back to the hub area. Now, time for the keypad ahead. The code is a clever game development trick. Tap all the switches on the wall, then check out which numbers suddenly appear on the computer. 4923. Unlock the gate with this, and in the next room, you'll find a Wulf just hanging around a computer. He doesn't have much to say, asking if you're lost and telling us we should go back, but what happens if you stay and tap that switch? it opens a browser tab on your computer to what's displayed on the monitor, the Cogware Games website. It talks about the company made up of 3 friends out of Silicon Valley: Connor Thomas, Elizabeth Baker, and Harry Waters. They enjoy making games for all audiences, even including adult humor, which explains Stumbler O'Hare. A snippet on the side informs visitors that Cogware is using the soon-to-be-released Unreal Engine, with a screenshot of work being done on Shipwrecked. Back to the game, the only way now is forward. Down the hallway, the look changes, and includes 2 notes from Connor, head of Cogware. He says this room is for staff only, and we should feel free to hit respawn. The note further in says if we really want to go down there, we can. Just be warned. So of course we're headed down. That Wulf was quick, but once he's gone, we've got some drawings to examine while some eerie music plays. There's artist Stumbler and Bucky, with his third eye open? The warning "Stop Now" is clear, and a game of Hangman. A word or name, 7 letters, missing 2. Could it be Brandon? We head through the door at the bottom of the stairs. It's clear from the notes left by Cogware and Bucky's dialogue that this is not a trip for the easily frightened. Nothing else encountered so far has had such a haunting atmosphere. It's dark, and there's just a candle, a sign, and a tape recorder. You can play it to hear a bit of chilling narration, but won't be able to read the label or the sign. Explore all you want in this section, but there's only one door. Enter a small wood-paneled room with bold red paint on the floor and walls. Someone's lying, and someone's mad. "Look me in the eye and tell me," some graffiti says on the upper level before the next area. Out here, more woods, and a computer with a new page on the screen. Tap the switch and your browser opens to A Helping Nub by Stumbler and Wulf. There are a bunch of links here, and your best bet is to hit them all before we proceed. This is another jumping off point for those who'd like to move ahead. If you reference the video guide to solve some of the puzzles on the way here, you'll find that Stumbler and Wulf's guide gives a total rundown on the ciphers you've encountered and those you'll continue to run into. It doesn't cover the entirety of solutions for certain things, but it is the majority. Again, if you get stuck, come back here. Otherwise, read the guide through carefully, keep the tab open, and charge on ahead. Just remember what certain sections say before you do that. Keep your ears and eyes open, and be proactive. As for those of us still here, let's read this together. About the authors. Truthfully, it doesn't tell us much we don't know, aside from Chief Wulf having been directly responsible for Walter, Olive, and Giovanni being put to work. Stumbler does the art for the guide, and Wulf does writing and research. Where Am I is the first big info link. Layer 3 is where you are right now. As you may know, the island is split into layers. For instance, Layer 1 is the island, outskirts, and any attached missions. Layer 2 consists of a pool, a diner, and a waterway. And now, you're in Layer 3, the Land of Darkness. That's okay though. If you come properly prepared, you should be equipped to either venture even further, or keep yourself safe. To open the gates and move to the next zone, locate and charge the computers to 3 out of 3. Once it's open, find the gate control and turn it on. The written info may confuse you trying to apply it, but the logic in playing is very clear when you get to it. The candle, your most important tool in Layer 3. The rest of the text just explains that it'll always appear with you in dark areas, no need to worry. Computers, prevalent in Layer 3, built by Silvertech. The standard model provides browser tabs on your computer. The golden version is activated with a timer. Once they are on, you will need to find each of them and turn them all on before the timer hits 0. I'll try to leave a map as to where to locate these computers. Dwellers, also known as Starlings, are creatures who live in the darkness of Layer 3. Donning the faces of Bucky's own friends, they will wander around the dark, searching for any unfortunate little beaver who happens to stumble into their path. Awakened when Walter, Giovanni, or Olive are brought down into Layer 3. They will stalk around the dark and eventually make their presence known. You cannot rely on your menu to keep you safe. Look for a barrel and interact with it to hide away. While a dweller may follow you around in Layer 3, that doesn't mean they won't try to follow you elsewhere. Stay alert. You may not be as safe as you think. If a barrel or any other objects appear to be off or moving, repeatedly hit it until it vanishes. We're then given the code 7418 to use if captured by a dweller, who will drop Bucky in a cell. It's the means to escape. Beaver Scratch. This explains the signs we've been seeing. It's a simple letter pairing swap code. A is B, C is D, and so on and so forth. The fastest way to decipher this without writing it all down is to remember what letter comes before or after whatever letter you're looking at. And in time, you'll remember what letters stand for what. For instance, the tape recorder on the pier was labeled Olivia. The sign after it said, "Where we lie." Whenever you see B, think A. Whenever you see F, think E. Beaver Scratch is mostly flavor text for the world. You'll seldom use it for any kind of solving, but there will be at least one moment. And by the way, yes, you can actually email Stumbler at that address. I have done it. It does work. But with the popularity of Shipwrecked, it has largely become exhausting for Stumbler to reply, so don't count on it, especially as the information he'd have to give is now available through a variety of sources by those who have experienced this journey. Cipher Guide. This is crucial, and if you hadn't managed to unlock the other areas before, this would have been what gave you the answers to figure things out. When we made it through the Waterway with the NATO phonetic alphabet code, we were using what's referred to as the Shakespeare cipher. Listen to the message, count the hits for words that start with that letter, and there's your count. The Mozart cipher was used for hot cross buns. Music is the key, and sheet music is specifically what you need once you understand what the song is. Listen to the section, find the sheet music, count the notes, and you're off and running. Picasso cipher. If you hadn't written down what the color paintings were in the gallery, this has you covered. But pay attention to what's written about this. Last thing, there's 2 more colors, but they've honestly slipped my mind. If you see them, write them down. You'll need them. Layer 4. This gate refers to one beyond the wood-paneled room. According to Wulf and Stumbler, they don't know if there is a Layer 4, but recent searches have shown some kind of paradise down there. There are 2 tasks to open the gate to the apparent Layer 4. Find a computer with a video containing crystals. If we visited the pool, we know what to do. That means a music code. Then there's a tape recorder with the code for the workstation computers and a hint to look for it in Stumbler's home away from home. A note says to play it far from Giovanni. He can hear them. So at least a dweller looking like Giovanni can pick up on noise. Step 3. Go to the sky hallway and look for the door with a music note, then press the button to begin. The monitors will instruct how to proceed. As for task 2, find the batteries and drop them off in the basement at the computer there. There will be one in the office, one on the rooftops, and one in the cave. That will set us free. Okay, this is a lot of information, but we have it on a browser tab we can flip back to whenever we need, so let's get moving. Ah, but there's one more link. What do I draw? Oh, looks like Stumbler is dealing with burnout, the poor thing. He gives his email to receive suggestions on something to draw to maybe help him on his way. But as of January 15th, he says he's now full on suggestions and has made more friends these past few weeks than in his whole life. I wouldn't worry about sending art ideas to Stumbler for a while. Back to the new area. Outside the computer, we know our tasks. And according to Stumbler and Wulf, we're not alone. Keep an eye and an ear out. There are 3 doors around you, one related to each character area unlocked on the way to the hub. You do not need to complete the computer charging task in all 3, you only need 2. But we'll go over how each one works. To the immediate left, you'll find a path leading to Olive's area, resembling the pool architecture. 1 switch is on the wall, easy to get. Down the way, past a room with some computers, you'll find what looks like an office, which includes a mirror, an image of a drowning Olive, a computer with an odd screenshot, and a tape recorder. The code to the keypad next to the mirror has to be around here, right? Let's listen to that tape first, the beaver scratch for which reads devlog random.
Alright. Today is August 12th, 1996. We've been given the go-ahead to get back to work on the project. It's been rocky, but we're all getting back into it. Harry's been at his workstation all day, playing through, well, he's been stuck on Olive-Level, the coconut one. Apparently, there's been an issue with the chests spawning in. They just appear at random, which is already bad. But then they soon vanish when you get too close. I'm really just not sure. It's very confusing. I'll figure it out soon, though. I'm sure of it. And Liz has been busy as always. She's trying to catch up on the game's artwork. We finally got a finalized design for the Wulf guy, mostly changing his proportions, so we can share his animations with other characters if we need to. But yeah, she's killing it, as usual, and on my end, not too much. I'm just chipping away on a little debug map right now, calling it just the Plaza for now, until we can think of a cooler name for it. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna keep recording these. They're very fun, for sure. Alright, see ya!
That must have been Connor, since he spoke about Harry and Liz's production elements. You can find these throughout the game from here, along with notes on the wall for lore. Enjoy discovering the story at your pace, and if you miss any connections, we'll make them later in Part 2. Now, this monitor is one of the reasons there are only 2 rooms you need to solve, because this takes having paid attention to any pop-ups during your playthrough with great visual memory. This is a matching pairs puzzle, and the place to look for the match is in your Steam achievements. Seriously. If you've won Olive's minigame even once, this achievement is unlocked. ACH_4742. That's the keypad code. Unlock the gate, tap the switch, then jump to the tunnel you passed previously. In here, another keypad, another recorder. To save you the time, the music is the most recognizable portion of Ode to Joy, and again, the code is related to the notes played here. So count up the notes and you've got 9449. Head down the hall to the left, get the switch past the drawing of Olive, and then explore the only turn in the hall you haven't tried. One wall jump later, and you're looking at the gate control button in this area past the computer, showing a 3 out of 3 charge. Hit it, and you'll be transported back to the main room, where the Cogware logo is now yellow instead of red. One more area's computer to charge for the gate control. Let's say you go to the Writer, Stumbler, and Wolf's Guide computer for the next area. Try not to get lost in here. It's a bit maze-like. Take the left path immediately and follow it down to a computer and tape recorder. Observe the computer carefully. Do you remember the color code? Memorize the pattern, then input the numbers corresponding to each color. In this case, 8389. The gate is open, so head through down a ramp, spot the gate you'll go to when you unlock all switches here, and take a left. Notice above the opening that the odd statue from the Waterway is in the window again. Strange recurring theme. Bucky's golden statues, and that thing. Head through, tap the switch, then head back up. Explore the right side of this area and you'll come across several more barrels you can interact with to hide Bucky, which is learning a new mechanic in a place that immediately sets you more on edge. And another tape recorder, devlog, progress. Exploring further, you can find one of Liz's drawings on the wall asking, "Who are you?" in regards to a golden statue on a pedestal, which appears to be the Bucky statue we've been seeing. Is she asking who Bucky is? Why would she do that? There are a bunch of underscores beneath. You can make out 7. 7 underscores, a game of hangman in the stairwell to layer 3, spelling out what appeared to be Brandon. Bucky? Brandon? Let's keep this in mind for later. Now, there's a keypad you'll find just past here on the wall. The code for this has to be around somewhere, and there's a computer in a small room here. In the computer room, you'll find a wall switch. That takes care of one of the charges for the gate control, so now you're at 2 out of 3. Try the switch on the computer here and it will open a video link. Magma. Don't get distracted by the audio. Observe the visual and the video description. From here on out, in fact, whenever a video opens from an action in the game, check the description. Check the comments, even. It's not something noted in Stumbler and Wulf's guide and is easy to overlook when concentrated so deeply on the video itself. It may have been better designed to have mentioned this. Magma's description reads, Mount Pinatubo? Look that up and you'll find it's a volcano that erupted in 1991. That's your keypad code. Plug it in to open the gate, strike that last switch, then head back to gate control. Run through the newly opened gate here and hit the switch. Just like that, you'll be back at the wood-paneled room, ready to leave under a bright green Cogware logo. And can't go back to that other side. What if you wanted to try the door straight ahead from Stumbler's computer, though? On entry, you'll come across 2 rooms with computers. The right is empty, the left has some graffiti. Is this where you were? Nearby is one of the switches, so tap that to get started charging this area's computer. Proceed down the hall past the horror of the Live Laugh Love sign and into a room full of computers with a grate in the floor. There's one keypad on the wall blocking off a switch, so that's a code we need to find. Head the other way to a new door. That audio doesn't sound right at all. What is that? Makes you really not want to go down there. Maybe you can keep going if you just take the Beaver Scratch translation and run with it to the keypad. 9281. Then inside, a tape recorder labeled Affirmations 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna sound like a madman recording one of these things. You know, I just kind of need to feel like I'm talking to someone, even if I'm not. So, yeah. Shit. Where to start? You know, this week hasn't been the greatest. Well, let's say that lightly. No, this week has been horrible. Everything feels like it's just going off the deep end, and I'm just starting to wonder how much I got left. Harley's still in the hospital, and until she's out, I'm sitting in this office. It's big, it's cozy, yet it feels so empty. Not a single soul has entered this room in days, aside from, myself. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Just remember your affirmations, and you'll be fine.
That was really different. A new character and interesting situation. Press the switch on the wall and... No, the grate still holds. We have to go back to that area with the strange audio. Ooh, not a trap. Got the switch and the grate is open, leading to this area's gate control. Again, any combination of 2 area completions can work for unlocking the main gate under the Cogware logo. But once you do it, that's it. There is no return trip. Just you and that door. And everything you've been playing to see. This is the point at which Shipwrecked 64 immediately becomes the game everyone's been hearing about. Cogware warned you. I will warn you. The experience that follows is known as the Plaza, and it's where this game's reputation is earned. And while you can see exactly what you're in for vicariously through other videos or streams, I am not going to spoil it for you. It's an experience that rewards those who truly enjoy horror games and effective designs. I am going to guide you through the solutions, and I'll teach you how to survive. But I'm not going to show you what's in here. There is no replicating the authentic experience or doing it justice in video. Obviously, this is the moment to head off on your own if you're ready to charge ahead. but I don't really advise charging into this one. Will we talk about it later openly? Of course, don't worry. I can't sing this project's praises without doing so. But for now, hold that candle tighter. Steady your nerves. Be brave. This is where Cogware's been hiding the bulk of what they built into the game. The very first move you're likely to make after saving is going to the left into that small building. Don't be scared by the computer sounds. Computer sounds are alright. If you hit this switch, it will open a tab to the Plaza map, a video by A Helping Nub, Stumbler's channel, which is a cool surprise. Will come up again at a few points and has some lore for us later. To be very honest, this map is not helpful for your situation. Your survival is going to largely be hindered by trying to memorize and rely on it or use it at all. Disregard it, you're going to use mental mapping and familiarity through exploration. And opening this tab in this place may put you in severe danger. Ignore it and listen very closely, because listening closely is going to save your life. Being observant, period, is going to save your life. Do you remember the odd sounds we heard here in the area with the beaver scratch monitor? That's just one type of sound to listen for while you're moving around in the plaza. Remember, computer sounds like the kind you'll hear in this spot are okay, but if you hear anything else, find a barrel and hide immediately. Wait it out. Do not leave. Observe your surroundings using the camera controls, but don't leave until it passes. If something goes wrong, and you will know it when it does, run until you can break line of sight and get into a barrel and just wait. And while I can tell you listening for sounds will save you most of the time, also be observant visually. If you see anything weird, whether it's in progress or you just spot it somewhere in the area, get in the barrel. Do not watch, move quickly. Now, what do we do when we're not hiding and getting a mental map made? This is where the two tasks come in from Stumbler and Wulf's guide. You have a computer defined that opens a video, and you have some codes to solve with it. Exploring your surroundings is crucial to surviving the plaza. You need to establish a mental map in terms of where things are in relation to other things. Explore, explore, explore. Read the notes and play the tape recorders if you're feeling brave, especially if you're looking for lore. But really observe where you see computers with keypads and where anything else is. Learn the layout. When it comes to this space, pass the first computer with a switch on the wall. This is the cell. Stumbler's Guide has the code to get out if you end up in here. Somewhere in the center of the plaza, you'll find an enclosed space, the walls made up of gates. Inside is a save canvas, one of the computers you'll need for later, 2 beds, and a computer with a switch. This is where you get the crystals video. As soon as you've got it open in a tab, pause it, then get back to the game. If you hear sounds, run to a barrel and wait them out. While exploring, also take note of this space, another gallery. There are 2 more color number paintings here, the couple that are missing from the guide, so write them down. Yellow 4, purple 6. Next, if you haven't encountered that tape recorder marked Workstation Code, that's located in the cave area, which is found by heading directly to the right from the entrance. You'll remember it easily that way.
Hello, future Stumbler. It's me, past Stumbler. I have the code. Going forward, if you ever need to turn on the workstations, the code is 1997. The year when all went wrong. Alright, that's all. Toodles! You look great today, by the way.
All that noise that started playing suddenly while listening to Stumbler's message and kept going? That's one of the sounds to listen out for. Anything like that, get in the barrel just as I did, and only look around with the camera. Silence is good, but be sure it's quiet before you leave. Now you have the crystal video and the code for the computers around here, but you're missing one more element. This takes exploring again, but the easiest way to get there while having barrels to run to is starting from the entrance point. Just go right and follow the wall. When you hit the corner with a huge computer, keep following the wall past it. Up ahead, you'll see a gated area, inside of which is a keypad blocking off an extension and a note. The note is an email from Connor and reads, "Hey Liz, I saw your crystal video. It's cool to see those in action. Those last 4 notes are kinda nostalgic to me." Last 4 notes, okay. So find yourself a nice barrel and go back to the video. This will take watching through a few times to get it, but you'll see the pattern of the last 4 notes played is blue, red, blue, green. According to the color code, if you wrote it down or used Stumbler's Guide, that's 3839. Notice also on the video a comment by the uploader, EB Cogware. Start at 11 seconds. That doesn't apply yet, but we know there's another component involving the video for later, so keep the tab open. Enter 3839 into the keypad. Now head in and keep going until you reach a new gated off section with a keypad. Yeah, there's another path to unlock in order to free up all the workstation computers. The message on the wall, "Did you miss me?" is your code. Yellow, purple, blue, green. 4639. This unlocks the remaining space in the whole area, with the last of the workstation computers. One of your best bets for doing the workstation run once it starts is to leave this entire extension for last. Now, speaking of, how do we start that run? You might have encountered this area while exploring, with the music note and keypad. To get up to the walkway, once you find this entrance to the room, go back out and head left, past the entrance to the basement. There will be a ramp ahead. Take that ramp, go left, and there will be a crystalline hallway that leads to the walkway with a keypad. If you need a reference point to start from the entrance again with the save canvas. If you pass the small building to the left with a jail cell and map computer, the music note room and basement entrance will show up on your left. Again, pass it by and take the ramp ahead. The music code uses the crystal video, and this is where start at 11 seconds comes in. The ability to miss that direction at the last second is a bane to puzzle solvers. I do have issues with the construction of this particular puzzle element, but the direction highlights the second half of the segment. If we pull up the sheet music for this, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and follow the code DECD, it's the same as Ode to Joy and Hot Cross Buns. Count the D, E, and C notes, then apply the numbers. In this case, it's 5525. And now the race, while avoiding what lurks in the dark. Run to the next room, hit the switch on the wall, and you've got just under 10 minutes to find all 20 workstation computers and type 1997 on each. It's not impossible. Just an anxiety-fueled, looking over your shoulder, frantic button-pushing, barrel-spotting, holding your breath, never really safe speed challenge. It's okay. You can do this. Your absolute best bet is exactly this. Hit the workstation immediately down from you on the floor. Once outside, turn left into the basement and do a whole room sweep on both sides for their workstations. Clear that basement. Back up top, get all of the workstations in the small buildings, the cave area with Stumbler's recorder just near the entrance, and the workstation on the floor because there is one behind a giant computer. Don't miss it. Go to the rooftops next and get those workstations. Once the giant computers in the plaza say 16 out of 20, you're clear to go to the extension area with the diner and offices beyond. Now you will only have 4. You know exactly where to hit them in the extension if you explored it. If you do this right, the very last workstation you need to activate will be the one all the way in at the back of this area, the office. And once you make it, you end up transported to this room, where even Bucky asks for a break. Once you two have recovered, go through the door, and you're now in a fully operational big computer room. The task left is simple. Collect 3 batteries, drop them off at the big computer in the basement. There's one on the walkway outside the ramp in the music note room. Be sure not to try falling off the edge with it. Bucky can't do that with a battery, and he may get stuck on colliders. Just walk it back normally. There's one in the cave room with the crystals, and one in the office area at the very end of the extension, because you know there had to be an anxiety-inducing one. This works exactly like collecting the boat pieces earlier. If the spacey 90s tech music gets interrupted by anything spine-chilling, drop the battery and barrel. You can pick it up once you're safe and carry on. And once you have all 3 batteries, Considering all the hell you've been through, you'd better retrieve that zip folder. Run back to the basement, hit the switch on the big computer. A browser tab will open inviting you to download the folder. Get Bucky to the exit you've no doubt found by now. It's against the complete opposite wall of the entrance. Just leave the basement and head straight left. Then save and either leave now or barrel up. Both options will keep you safe. Then hit the browser tab by Cogware, accept the download, get the folder, unzip it, and... Actually, you know what? You can explore that on your own for a moment if you please. More rewarding that way, I think. Plus, everything I have to say about that and the notes and logs in this area should really wait for layer 6 of this video. But I will present one log in this area of importance, found in the gallery building. Optimism 2.
Hello! Liz here again. Wanted to keep track of where we are right now. The other day, Mark took myself and the rest of our team out for coffee. It was pretty nice, but it was also somewhat unnerving. It was probably the first time through this whole adventure that the reality of my situation sunk in for me. Like, that's the CEO of Broadside Animation Studios. A massive animation titan in the industry is just here, waiting for our team to help it. That's genuinely such a crazy thought. But if he enjoys our game, that's going to be life-changing. It's just a lot, honestly. But it's okay. I think we'll all be enjoying our time on Easy Street once we've shown Mark the game. Anyways, that's all. Toodles.
After leaving Layer 3, even Bucky's surprised at where you are. A note on the wall explains you're in a tech demo, the one that Connor spoke of in a recording you might have listened to. For this section, there really isn't much on the surface for you except collecting one of the secrets that unlocks in the bonus room by opening the right chest on one side of the hallway. It's about 5 or 6 chests in. Just open the middle section entirely and keep going down until it appears. You can interact with the tech demo all you like, of course, but overall, it is a tech demo. A light, airy reprieve from the hell you just went through. What you can catch in a room farther along is this statue once again watching you through an upper window. Eventually, you make your way to this pink-walled and fenced area with a save canvas, and the large room at the end, with a gate and an elevator. There's no going up, but you can head down. And this is another point at which, if you only came back to get unstuck, you can run free again. But with 2 important notes. First, the elevator can go down 2 levels, not just 1. Personal critique of mine for game design, it should have actually been noted. It's 2 levels. That little touch would have been kinda helpful. And on that second lower level, explore and make observations whenever you have places you can look at if you aren't sure how to proceed. The invisible step isn't entirely intuitive, but the moment it clicks and you take action, everything from there is pretty logical. As for us on the guided tour, it's time to hit the elevator. Wow, much nicer here, isn't it? Completely different atmosphere. Clean, new, quiet. Look around a bit and you'll see a locked door and a room with computers and some codes on the wall. The opposite way has a keypad and a gated off section. Outside, a whole series of tall buildings with windows lit from within. What's on the further end of that room with computers, though? Noise. Odd noise. We don't like that. So into the elevator before we find its source, and down we go, because there is another floor. Now, I do have to admit I made a mistake. While recording this section, I accidentally left up the map I pieced together from the first component of this level for the night I finished the game on stream. So the beginning footage has my edited map to the left, including the e-meme of Markiplier, the patron saint of surviving scream-on-camera horror games about animal monsters, which I used as my key for the elevator and, yes, a good luck charm. The good news is, Saint Markiplier did grant us victory. The other good news is that using this map and the footage that does show, I can still guide you right away and explain how the map even exists. As soon as you step out of the elevator here, you'll take a right, followed by a left, bringing you to this computer. You know the drill. Tap the switch, return to the game from the browser pop-up, hide in a barrel, then check out what you opened. This is Stumbler's map of the sewers, which is actually incredibly useful compared to the Plaza map. You really do need this one. Your objective here is to find the method to get past the gate to the control room, where Stumbler himself confesses he has not explored. The area with the green line represents a door that connects to that lower section, a quick passage. It's useful because you can follow its path to the control room spot, which you'll recognize by seeing these two dead wolves in a cell above you under a red light. The gate here is what you need to unlock to benefit from the sewers. Stumbler has indicated that in the area of the green circle, there's a hidden door, a false wall to an area they call the phone. Is it because it looks vaguely like a phone, or has a secret purpose? Well, if there's an additional secret here, I've yet to find it, but there's a reason to know about it. If you went to the phone immediately, you'd have nothing to do. You could explore the entirety of the sewers, but the only thing of actionable interest is the cell, which, if you looked in, would present a computer with a switch. But how to get it? The keypad is on the other side. There's gotta be some kind of secret passage, right? There's got to be. It's the only logical thing here. So then you explore like mad to find that secret passage, especially if you've had a deathless run, like I did, trying to keep my deathless run. And then eventually you face the truth. Exhausting all other options, you've got no leads of any obvious nature except for the cell, and no secret way in. Oh, how you wish there was a secret way in. You know you have the code for the cell. You've had it through Stumbler and Wulf's guide just in case. If you've never had to use it, you will now. I'm sorry. You need to get hit by the monsters. If you had the right pieces, you could make this run without ever getting hit. But without seeing those pieces to know what to do, there's just no other way. Now inside the cell, and hopefully not shaken up too badly, you have access to the computer and can see the clearly dead wolf and the many days he spent here, as well as the plate-sized Tamagotchi he played with until dying of dehydration. Tap the computer switch, get a browser tab, and find that the keypad code has changed. So this is easy. Take the original keypad code with its digits in their natural places and move them according to the new position order indicated. Instead of 7418, it's 8714. Type that into the keypad and you're good to leave. Or check out the wall jump area where the grate just disappeared above the dead wolf. Or if you had failed that, or you're just sick of wall jumping, or you got curious before even trying the switch, inspect that Tamagotchi and phase through the wall, finding a door to a shortcut up to the top of the wall jump. Here you'll see 4 barrels, 2 with unique colors. It's another color code, so match the order to their corresponding numbers. 9396. Take a little boat ride, and at the end, find a keypad, a computer, and a tape recorder. Devlog Panic.
Toss the fucking script! It's done! It's over! That went horribly. I can't even lie to myself on this recording. It went horribly. All that work, all for nothing. It's only a matter of time till I get their 2-week notices on my desk.
Things went horribly. Interesting. And somehow, not actually surprising, knowing what occurred with this game. Enter 9396 on the keypad and access a new video, featuring some time codes and images. It's easy enough to understand from the images that there are invisible switches around the sewers and some spots are recognizable. But in case they aren't, the time codes are there. They indicate the room to find that switch on the runtime for the sewers map video. Be careful with studying the last image in the room with a ramp. The camera pan on that was terrible, leading you to believe the switch was somewhere it isn't. It's in the bottom right corner of the screen from the first frame, very easy to miss with this composition, on the side of the ramp. The second button is in the upper room for the area known as the phone, past that false wall. Hit the first switch, which is along the wall immediately across from the jail cell opening. Get the switch on the side of the ramp near the control room, and strike the switch in the phone area, and you'll have that gate at the control room open. Just try to avoid the encounters this time. They'll be harder than before. Passing the now open gates, you'll find a room beyond with a computer and a tape recorder. The computer opens a browser tab with a page titled Codebreaker, a code on screen, and a download link. Enter the next room and observe your surroundings. You'll find a similar code structure inside to the one you've just seen on the Codebreaker page. But what about the circles and X's? Maybe there's a form of them around. But let's get in a barrel and check out the download first. A folder for a Shipwrecked demo. Okay. It starts with the same settings choices in the base game, then loads us into the menu. Tap A, and the changes begin.
Walling. That's a new 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 walling. That's a walling.
Okay. What's a new one? The way we chose to try saving? It seems Chief Wulf is still around in some form. Alright, but for real, let's get back into it. And a word of advice to make things easier. Save in the main game, then go all the way back to the pink walled room, because the controller is going to operate Shipwrecked 64 and its demo at the same time if you leave both open. Back in the demo, immediately past the door, you'll find a video clip. The way this transition works, it almost feels like we became the Bucky mascot for a moment, doesn't it? Walking through the halls into whatever room this is now. A nice touch. Here we have a big computer, 2 keypads, 4 switches, and a reset switch. This demo was linked as Codebreaker and we were given a starting code on the browser tab, so let's give that a shot. After greeting Paul in the corner. I have no explanation for this, it's just kind of an extra creep out factor. Anyway, back to the first code. Okay, that must have been given just to show us how this is done. We need a green and red switch pattern and 2 codes. Thinking back to the full game, in the actual control room we have 2 codes, and a pattern of green and red computers on the desk on the same wall. Let's try that. Right. Well, there was one more place we saw this, wasn't there? The first elevator layer, the nice one. Okay, so if we get that quickly, race back up the pink room and put it into the demo, what do we get? How many door frames, computers, tables, and lights in that room marked 1? And we know there's an area beyond it too. So maybe there's more further down to give us the rest of the info. Because if this supplies 4 digits by doing the counting for something marked 1, that's gotta be the first keypad. Back to the main game. Go back down, do a quick count of the objects, and that's 2 door frames, 6 computers, 3 tables, 4 lights. Heading down the hall, if we take the first left, we see an area with 4 empty rooms, but with colored lighting. Green, green, red, red. What's down the other way? See what just happened? Do you remember this advice from Stumbler's Guide? Unnatural sound started playing and there was an odd barrel just hanging out there. Once hit, it canceled out the sound, avoiding an encounter. That lets you read the note on the wall, which is what you want, because the object counting method isn't compatible with this room for a keypad of 4 digits. But you know what is 4 digits? The year in the first sentence of this note. In 1995, there was a mass made of 4 men, 3 men and 1 woman to be exact. It sat in a room waiting for its liberation. That would not come for years. So green, green, red, red, then 2634 and 1995. Take that info and leave, and if you have to barrel, a word of caution. Stay inside even once it's quiet and brace yourself. If you don't want to find out why, be fast. Once you're safe, put the new code into the demo and receive a video component for the audio we heard in the Frontier Street Museum, including a much better shot of Rex, the animator, and a new code, 1917. There's only one place left with a keypad we haven't tapped, and we were just there. Sure enough, the gate opens, and you're good to head down. Just be warned, as peaceful as this place is, that audio cue means business. Watch where the barrels are. And if you end up in one, remember, hold still and brace yourself. Remain calm. In this area, there are a few notes, if you're quick enough to read them. The mass of 4 men sat in the room. It writhed and twitched like a dying animal, but it was still very much alive. It craved freedom, liberation, and happiness. It begged, pleaded to leave, but it was held in that room for a long time. One day, though, when checked upon, the mass was missing. It shambled, pulling itself out of the room. When it was far enough out of the building, it split right in half. The 2 halves went their separate ways. We know who the mass of bodies probably were, or at least 3 of them, since we don't know if Brandon, Bucky's actor, actually died. What's insinuated here is that their corpses were left together and just meshed. Brandon's 3 victims and a 4th body, male. And it reanimated into something, which then escaped and split in half. This goes beyond any idea of a slasher rampage kept under wraps, but it hints at the elements that deserve exploring concerning Brandon's abnormal behavior according to Olivia's murder audio. On this level, you need only solve 1 keypad and 1 switch, and both elements are largely given through a computer that opens a browser tab to a video titled Fish, with a message, published March 12, 1960. What book about fish was published then? 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. But that's not all. In the video description is a link titled Location, showing a secret switch on this wall, and the uploader is JD from Bullet N. JD like the character? That's going to take some looking at later. So, hit the keypad, the code for which is 1, 2, then the colors for red and blue, 8, 3, and then go get that switch. Could we mention the statue overlooking your progress in the hallway? We could, but it doesn't matter right this second, since its time is coming. A final note from Cogware says we know where this tunnel leads. We'll know it well Just promise that we'll stay calm. Going through will open the gates. When we enter, Bucky does recognize it. Just keep going, he says. It's safe in here. Deep in the tunnel, we come across a large beating heart. There's nothing to say about it for Bucky. Nothing to interact with. Just observe it and the odd mirror that's here now, and keep going. Back on the level of the convention tech demo, in the pink room, the last gate is open. You survived it all. Are you ready to see this through to the end? I ran into a monster earlier today. It was right outside the park, a statue put together using chunks of wood and cloth. It looked bizarre, but then I saw it move.
It's you. I thought I was the only one rotting down here. So much has happened. So much. It's all beyond your understanding. They call out to me. All four of them. I hear their voices skittering around in the inside of my wooden shell, even down to the pulsating mass laying beneath it. I need you to find me. It won't be easy to catch. You'll need to prove to me that you want what I have. If you do as I ask, you'll know everything. Every single detail of what happened. Why you are who you are. What do you say, friend? Let's give it a go.
And now, if you're here, you're in a very simple scenario. Explore the areas open to you on the reproduction of the first layer of the game and interact with this character 10 times. There is a unique sound signal for him, so pay attention, but avoid the monster encounters because they'll all be out here trying to stop you. Off you go. Collect them all. Keep your eyes open because sometimes the statue blends in, and in the chaos, you may panic, but don't worry. Getting caught puts you back at the beach and just sets you back by one find. The location is random, and sometimes you can get the statue multiple times in one place, so always look around after a find. Just use the barrels whenever necessary. Keep running, keep out of line of sight, and eventually, you'll make it to 10.
Ask, and you shall receive. Let's take a look at the little mess you've made.
Connor, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been playing this for about 2 hours now, and I'm not seeing the widespread appeal you've been promising us. It's, well, to be honest with you, it's clunky. I don't know what I'm doing. The characters who you promised would have depth and life, they are just flat. I thought that's the entire point of a 3D game.
What?
You oversold it, Connor. That's what I'm trying to say. Our company is meant to be forging new frontiers. And, to be frank, after what happened at Studio Grounds, I really don't think this is going to be anything. It's not going to be anything in the same tier as our movies, our park, anything. And I really hate to say this, because I know for a fact you and your team put a lot of work into this game, but I just don't know if it's worth continuing to sink money into.
Sink money into? Mark, this is our job. You've had us working on this for 2 years, and now suddenly it's an issue?
Yes, it's been 2 years. And in those 2 years, you've only sat me down now and showed me the actual fucking game.
So, what can we do to fix it?
No, Liz. This isn't a fix the game issue. It's a fix your perspective issue. Mark, you are sitting in front of some of the greatest technology of the decade, and you're gonna brush it off?
Connor, I'm not brushing anything off. I'm just trying to understand where this...
I'm sorry to say, Mark, but it's true. It's not that we've made a bad game. We've all exceeded the industry standard. What we're having a hard time passing is your thick skull and...
Connor! Stop. Look, I'm so sorry about him. He's just under a lot of...
Is it Harley? Is it not worth it anymore because you're trying to treat her instead?
What?
Yeah, I said it.
What are you bringing her into this for?
Because I bet that's what you're gonna do. You can't keep funding our 2 years worth of work. Gotta buy her a fancy casket.
Unbelievable.
Mark, look, I'm really sorry.
Now, Liz, you're fine, okay? But I want you to know that we are done, professionally. All right, I don't want to work with any of you guys again. Quite frankly, I don't want to see you guys touch our property. Any of that. Am I clear?
Yes, Mark.
You can go now.
No. Because first of all, I want our equipment back.
You can go now! You can go! Leave!
Take a step closer. Lay a fucking hand on me. You lay one hand on me, I'm gonna make sure you stay in jail for a real long fucking time. Huh? Who are they gonna believe? You? You are nothing. I will be taking my leave now. Good luck in your future endeavors. I expect the office to be cleared by next week. Do not contact me again.
The credits roll. The true credits. The mission of the Shipwrecked recovery crew, Liz B., and Connor's son, Patrick Thomas, is complete. At the end, we're left with Bucky. Just Bucky. Confused, wondering why things are the way they are, acting a little frantic, and finally unable to just stay still with it all. A lot like us. Because of course, we're far from done. With the events of the ending fresh in our mind, and understanding the voices and positions of Mark, Connor, and Liz, we have a pretty clear idea of the surface-level story on the working relationship between Cogware and Broadside. To gain deeper context, let's examine the lore across several notes and tape recorder logs. Things started pretty positively on the Shipwreck project, judging by the log in the gallery of Layer 3. Liz B., the team's artist, describes the day when Mark, the CEO of Broadside Animation, took the team out for coffee to discuss the game's development. Connor, the head of Cogware, was in high spirits too, according to the devlog titled Progress from March of 1996.
Okay, as of today, the beige, park, and hull are all complete. Even got Olivia here. Just need to set up her teleport once we have the minigames completed. Oh, it's March, by the way, 96. Sorry, I'm just kind of excited. Why am I sorry for that? Today's a good day. Anyways, everything is going smoothly, I think. Liz needs to get back to me with Walter's Mall, plus his head texture, but it's smooth sailing, I guess you could say. I think I've patched the notable bugs, too. Even the one Harry found in the hole, where you get soft-locked behind the bed. How did he even do that? I'm planning to talk to Mark later. I can't wait to show him the progress. I think it's gonna go great. We'll have to see, though. That's all. Signing off for tonight.
During this time, Mark was attempting to be patient under what we were informed early on were some very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna sound like a madman recording one of these things. You know, I just kind of need to feel like I'm talking to someone, even if I'm not. So, yeah. Shit. Where to start? This week hasn't been the greatest. Well, let's say that lightly. No, this week has been horrible. Everything feels like it's just going off the deep end, and I'm just starting to wonder how much I got left. Harley's still in the hospital, and until she's out, I'm sitting in this office. It's big, it's cozy, yet it feels so empty. Not a single soul has entered this room in days, aside from, myself. But, you know what, it doesn't matter. Just remember your affirmations, and you'll be fine.
We know from the meeting at the end of the playthrough that Mark's wife Harley did not survive her ordeal at the hospital, and things didn't seem to be going well in general. He was being patient in the early phase, and even encouraging the team personally, according to Liz. Things weren't good though, and in time, it seems he started to lean on Cogware for results. The first sign of this comes from Connor's devlog titled Random.
Alright. Today is August 12th, 1996. We've been given the go-ahead to get back to work on the project. It's been rocky, but we're all getting back into it. Harry's been at his workstation all day, playing through, he's been stuck on Starling-Level, the coconut one. And Liz has been busy as always. She's trying to catch up on the game's artwork. We finally got a finalized design for the Wulf guy, mostly changing his proportions, so we can share his animations with other characters if we need to. But yeah, she's killing it, as usual. And on my end, not too much. I'm just chipping away on a little debug map right now, calling it just the Plaza for now, until we can think of a cooler name for it. But yeah.
Things have been rocky, but they've been given the go-ahead to get back to work on the project. That's suggestive of a meeting to discuss progress, and at that point, Connor was working on the Plaza while minigames and final models were underway. There is a curiosity about the development path for this game in the early days. We know from the audio in the Frontier Street Museum that it's based on the island theme park Broadside Beach, and because of that, we can judge the pool, waterway, diner, gallery, and museum before Layer 3 must have been in the original game plans too, which means Shipwrecked in its final version wouldn't have ended with just 4 tasks to save your friends, even if the game simply works that way. It's pretty straightforward. It's a logical small game, but it does feel too short to be realistic, doesn't it? Layer 2 is the evidence that proves it was too short, because Cogware designed more for the title in line with the theme park. But if development slowed down past Layer 2, what caused it? Let's listen to this devlog Connor made, titled Mark.
Hearts and souls into it, but is that even enough? His standards must be set astronomically high. Plus, after the thing I found, I just gotta be honest.
I feel so much less safe around that man.
Do you remember the hate mark message on the chalkboard from the Waterway? It could be an early hint at Connor's anger, but it could also be a timestamp for us in relation to the first half of the devlog we just heard. Put our hearts and souls into it, but is that even enough? His standards must be set astronomically high. This means something must have changed after whatever made things rocky in August, and at the time, the team was still working on the first layer of the game. The evidence so far suggests 2 possibilities. First, Shipwrecked actually was meant to be as simple as Layer 1, which lines up with the restoration team's comments about the 2023 version being the original concept according to design documents. If this was their true vision, then what must have occurred, based on what we've seen in Layer 2 and the hate mark comment there, is easy to guess. Cogware was told their design was too small to serve a brand as big as Broadside Animation, and the company wanted a fuller representation of their island theme park. His standards must be set astronomically high, Connor said, which is what a lot of game devs must feel after meeting with a client who asks why the product isn't more expansive. The other possibility is another more common issue we all know by now as the horror of working in major games, the astronomically high standard of a ridiculously fast turnaround time. And for a team of 3, that would have been a horrifying time crunch. It's possible Cogware meant it to be a big, faithful representation of Broadside Beach with Layer 2 in their total designs, but the impatience by Broadside Animation was what infuriated Connor. In this possibility, part of the tragedy was that it became a rush job of programming to make Layer 1 a complete story, while Layer 2 would never see completion. The second half of Connor's statement, though.
Plus, after the thing I found, I just gotta be honest.
I feel so much less safe around that man.
Just before this, Connor was working on the Plaza, and it's in the Plaza that we're rewarded with his discovery. There are 15 notes in this entire area you can find while avoiding the dwellers. You don't need them all to get the message, but you do need most. It's a note from Cogware. I was at the offices last night. I had brought a drive with me. It contained our presentation for Broadside. I didn't grab that drive on the way out. When I slid my drive into the slot, nothing I included was there, but instead a branching web of folders, the contents of which were repulsive. Many different folders, so many names, so many labels, so many mistakes. It's sickening. Folders dedicated to old cartoons, but not just that, cover-ups too. Every slip of the mask was justified. Their goodwill was rooted in fiction. Controversies on Bullet End were silenced. Any bad blood the company had silently fizzled out. This folder contained documents of these lies, created only to keep their story straight. It goes beyond public issues though. People have died at their parks. And you think it's bad now? Get this. A little girl was crushed in the Squirrel Cruise. Quite literally, head caught between the track and the boat. I saw the pictures. It's as bad as you think. Oh, and it gets worse. So much worse. Not only have guests died, but employees have too. Before studio grounds, they owned an entire island, and on that island, at the very least, there were 3 deaths. 3 deaths, and no news coverage. Why? Fiction. It's all rooted in fiction. It's a miraculous recovery. That boy had a near-death experience, yet he's back in the park. It was a cover story. It gets much worse, though. On that drive, photos of bodies, 4 in total, very heavy blacks and whites. This wasn't the original image, it was a copy. There is footage of the murders. Broadside Animation has a history of covering up tragedies at their parks, starting with the island location, Broadside Beach. Their death toll includes 3 murders, yet there were 4 bodies. Those murders were caught on film. Connor knows this because of a mishap at the Broadside offices involving a presentation for the development of the game, more than likely occurring after August 1996, but before the recording of the devlog titled Mark. Do you know what else Connor must have found on that drive? Mark's audio recordings, because it's the only possible explanation for why he had those to put into the game at all. And there's one you may have found in the basement of the Plaza that helps put everything into place.
I just looked at the numbers. Fuck! Our entire brand's been going down the drain. The stocks, I've never seen stocks get this fucking low. And we're still bringing people on. We're still expanding. At this point, what the fuck's a layoff gonna do? It'll sink us further into the shit! Okay, the best option. I think the best option we've got, I've been... it's been going in my head for like the past 5 fucking hours now. The best option we got is to cut the game studio we've hired. Okay, we've been basically dumping money into their pockets, and I don't know what exactly they're making. I haven't heard from them in months. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna schedule a meeting with them, okay? And if they don't have exactly what they've promised, we cut them off. It'd save our asses in the long run. It'd probably give us a fighting chance. You know what? I just realized I'm throwing the exact same amount of money I'm paying for Harley's medical bills into this fucking game studio!
This is the only recording by Mark that could immediately precede the big meeting at the end of the game pulling Shipwreck's funding. And by the logic of the writing, it had to come from the drive Connor picked up at the Broadside offices, or it would be impossible for him to have it and us as players to hear it. Imagine being Connor, having just heard that recording by Mark, and listened to his devlog again.
Hearts and souls into it, but is that even enough? His standards must be set astronomically high. Plus, after the thing I found, I just gotta be honest.
I feel so much less safe around that man.
Connor's devlog works perfectly as a reply to the contents of Mark's recording and seeing what was on the drive. It's the only time Connor alludes to Broadside's cover-ups and shows outrage against Mark's expectations for the project. And now we know why Connor took such a vitriolic swipe at Harley during the meeting. He heard how furious and dismissive Mark was about Cogware when their funding could have paid for Harley's treatment.
Now, the best option we got is to cut the game studio we've hired. Okay, we've been basically dumping money into their pockets, and I don't know what exactly they're making. I haven't heard from them in months. You know what? I just realized I'm throwing the exact same amount of money I'm paying for Harley's medical bills into this fucking game studio!
Look, I'm so sorry about him. He's just under a lot of...
Is it Harley? Is it not worth it anymore because you're trying to treat her instead?
What?
Yeah, I said it.
What are you bringing her into this for?
Because I bet that's what you're gonna do. You can't keep funding our 2 years worth of work. Gotta buy her a fancy casket.
Unbelievable.
Mark, look,
So Connor's devlog is out of the running for a reply to potential requests by Broadside to expand the game. His moment of fury has to be after seeing the contents of the drive and needing a reason to be furious at Mark over astronomically high standards. It's still possible Cogware received new demands to expand into Layer 2 before this as the explanation for rocky development around August. It's weird that version 2023 as the true vision entirely cuts out Layer 2, which is more faithful to Broadside Beach and what the company would have wanted in the title. The issue surrounding Connor's log, Mark's log, And the situation around picking up the drive is a very specific logic scenario that doesn't add up. It is impossible to have Mark's audio without Connor having the hard drive, because every personal item of Broadside's comes from the hard drive swap. It's the only logical explanation you can use to justify Mark's audio being in-game, and Mark's audio jumps us right to the end of the timeline for the working relationship.
I don't know what exactly they're making. I haven't heard from them in months. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna schedule a meeting with them, okay? And if they don't have exactly what they've promised, we cut them off.
Which indicates that the reason Connor showed up to the office with a presentation would have been for the meeting Mark demanded, and it was at that meeting that he killed the game. Remember, the only reason Connor has Mark's logs is because he took the Broadside Drive. Connor got that drive while visiting with a presentation. Mark's log saying he's about to kill the game was on the drive when it was taken, and he said he hadn't heard from Cogware in months. Therefore, Mark's log precipitates whatever summons Connor to the office in the event when he gets the drive. And there was only one thing Mark would have wanted him there for, which was the final meeting. What we have here is logically flawed, because Connor's reaction doesn't present anger over the final meeting. It only works for having discovered the drive and new expectations by Mark for the project. He also wouldn't have such perfectly pointed venom about their funding being used for Harley at the final meeting unless he'd heard the log beforehand, which means the drive swap can't have occurred on the way out after being terminated. It had to happen before. And the context of feeling unsafe around Mark wouldn't make sense if they'd just been fired, because Connor wouldn't be meeting with Mark again. We also have Connor's reactions to the funding being pulled in 3 different logs, which we'll get to in just a moment. Connor can't have shown up to a regular meeting for a presentation. Mark's log on the drive makes it very apparent he hasn't heard from Cogware in months, so he's about to have an ultimatum meeting, and we know how it went. So how do you even make sense of this timeline issue? There's a few explanations I can think of. First, Connor did go to the offices with a hard drive that had their presentation, but he either did so spontaneously without a scheduled meeting, or the fact their presentation was on it is just some writing to justify his being there to get the drive, and now it's completely sending us on a spiral that doesn't even matter. In this scenario, the only important thing is that Connor visited the offices and got the drive. His anger comes either from a call shortly after to come present the game before it's ready, or listening to Mark's personal log, and there is absolutely no other explanation. I am genuinely thinking this has got to be the answer, and the inclusion of info about the hard drive holding Cogware's presentation creates so much confusion that it's a major writing oversight. In which case, I've got to acknowledge it as a negative and comment that better care in writing and editorship should have been taken when writing and reviewing this section. Second possibility, Connor did show up to give a presentation that Mark called for, and because all he had was a presentation, Mark said, "Go get me a playable build. I mean it. I don't care how much time you say you need, you're giving it to me next week." This would have created Connor's anger over astronomically high standards and still ushered in the meeting that killed the funding. So now that we've cleared that up, maybe, let's observe what happened in the wake of that last meeting, which is in the game because Connor or Liz must have been recording for their logs.
Toss the fucking script! It's done! It's over! That went horribly. I can't even lie to myself on this recording. It went horribly. All that work, all for nothing. It's only a matter of time till I get their 2-week notices on my desk.
Hello, we are not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
Connor? Hello? Look, you're going to have to answer me soon enough. I went in today because despite the stress of this job, all of the work I'd spent the last year on being put to waste, and all of us being taken off of our payroll, I wanted to check in and see if you were there. But not only do I walk in and see you're gone, but so is half of the equipment. What are you doing? Call me back when you hear this. We really need to talk about this.
Liz has already done everything she needed to. Harry's done, well, enough. I'm taking the reins now. I'm completing this on my own. No help, no influence from Broadside, Mark, or any of those disgusting fucks. I was worried about what he'd do to me. By the time I'm done with him, he'll regret the day he first uttered my name.
Shipwrecked 64 is not a game. It's a cannonball aimed directly at Broadside. Connor knew this was the best chance yet for anyone to sink the company. People had tried to expose Broadside through a controversy website called Bulletin, but they were smart enough to pull strings and have anything that appeared on the board deleted or refuted. Every element we've seen so far pertaining to the murders was planted by Connor to be discovered. The entire underlayer of the game, covered in teases and warnings, were designed to lure you deeper and deliver the full document drop revealing Broadside's history of deaths and cover-ups. But just in case you never got there, Connor front-loaded Layer 1, ensuring there would be a storm of media coverage and a frenzy to dig deeper. From every angle of design, this game filled with horrific and violent images under layers of secrecy is completely justified by the writing and logic in the lore. I have never seen such masterful execution backing up plausible circumstances for a scary lost retro game's layers of blood and hidden horrors. In storytelling context, justification, and presentation for its shocking elements, no one has done it better than Shipwrecked 64. Yes, a company would have documentation like this for the sake of keeping their story straight, especially while battling online leaks of their incidents. And that writing logic inclusion alone makes Shipwrecked 64 superior to a lot of projects involving secret information that, by story and character motivation logic, shouldn't have been kept on record but was somehow still discovered. Yes, it makes sense that this had to be accessed by doing things wrong multiple times. It needed to stay secret long enough that as many copies could be out in the hands of the people as possible before action was taken to stop the leak, but not so secret that it would stay hidden. It makes sense that small hints were given at a layer underneath the main gameplay through actions like waiting on a weird sign, studying its language, and suddenly seeing a mysterious video. And with things going so wrong at Broadside and Connor going rogue, it is plausible that he managed to get this onto some shelves before Broadside caught it. Things were a lot looser in the mid-90s when it came to production flow. All of the design elements we've observed related to Broadside's secret history work for Connor's revenge tactics. This storyline is plausible. But here's what's interesting about the conflict between Connor and Mark. It runs deeper and earlier than it had any reason to, and unknown to Mark. I'd like to play the first audio log from Mark for you again. Listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna sound like a madman recording one of these things. You know, I just kind of need to feel like I'm talking to someone, even if I'm not. So, yeah. Shit. Where to start? You know, this week hasn't been the greatest. Well, let's say that lightly. No, this week has been horrible. Everything feels like it's just going off the deep end, and I'm just starting to wonder how much I got left. Harley's still in the hospital, and until she's out, I'm sitting in this office. It's big, it's cozy, yet it feels so empty. Not a single soul has entered this room in days, aside from, myself. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Just remember your affirmations, and you'll be fine.
So Harley, Mark's wife, was hospitalized, and whatever put her there ended her life. In the layer containing Blot, right before you leave the game, there's a log from Connor about an unexpected element at this point in the narrative.
Think about that one rabbit a lot. Stumbler, I think Liz called him. Yeah, he's funny. I think the funniest part is his missing arms. I managed to sneak in a jab towards Mark's wife and having her arm amputated. She was fresh on my mind when I was suggesting the idea to Liz. And hey, we're making her a little guy a hopeless romantic as well. It lines up pretty damn well with how Mark is, doesn't it? Funny character. You know, that does remind me, they've got another rabbit, don't they? That'd be a fun thing to put in too.
Put in a jab at Mark about his wife having her arm amputated. In the same conversation with Liz about Stumbler, a hopeless romantic trying to make art to impress a girl rabbit. And even that's a weird reflection against Mark. There's another log confirming what happened here, accessed through another secret. When Chief Wolf said after failing his minigame that he'd leave you a treat, which turned out to be the object-seeking vision, it became useful in Stumbler's game. Very useful, as you could discover an invisible door at the end of the platforming rocks. Jump and activate it, and you'll enter the game's debug room, which has a few secrets. The one we're concerned with right now is the first entry from Liz's Optimism series, found on this barrel.
Heya, Liz here. Wanted to just throw my hat into the ring. Connor said he would be recording his work on the game, and I wanted to try it myself. It'd be a nice way to keep logs of development as little relics to take a look at once the game's fully done and shipped. So, today it's December 1995. Yeah, and I've been working on designing some of the bonus characters one may run into in the game. Been doing this little rabbit guy. Connor thought of a funny gimmick today and told me that it shouldn't have arms, but would still try doing things with his hands.
There you go. Connor told Liz that Stumbler shouldn't have arms. His jab at Mark over Harley's condition was that callous. And he'd been doing this since December of 1995, as development started. And suddenly, it makes something else in the game that was so confusing make much more sense. This projector scene. Can't tell what's going on? Would you like to see it solid, in color? Because this original footage is in the files for the game, and it's worse without the projector effect. Yeah, that's Stumbler's mascot actor or 3D graphic model for the trailer being directed to mimic ripping the arm off a life-size doll in a hospital room setting. That's how obsessive Connor was about his cruelty to Mark over Harley. And remember, this doll reappears if you fail Stumbler's minigame. We can confirm the doll is a stand-in for Harley in this scene too, by way of Stumbler's YouTube uploads. This video, How to Say Goodbye, has the minigame failure clip at the end. Check out what comes before it. The description reads, "It's okay to let out some tears, Mark. No one is going to judge you here. It's just you and me. Deep breaths. We'll make it through this, even if she's not here anymore." The question of Stumbler is one you may have been asking yourself this whole time. After all, it's the only living element of the original game, and the cleanest explanation is that it's one of the developers operating Stumbler's accounts. This video indicates that it might be Liz, who didn't know Stumbler was meant to hurt Mark Mullins in a way he didn't deserve. This may be her penance. Mark Mullins was not a saint, and Connor's actions with the Broadside Drive were something for us to cheer about. But Harley was just someone who suffered and didn't deserve to be made an object of ridicule and cruelty. What was Connor's hang-up about Harley? We might never know. He was a father, clearly, so maybe he had a wife and they split, so he was jealous of Mark, or just scornful about women in a romantic context while working on the game. What we do know about Connor is that he was obsessively cruel, even before he had a reason to attack Broadside. We can gain more insight about Mark's emotional state at this time through another secret area, this one accessible by going through the doors wrong on Walter's minigame level at the end of all the platforming.
her to the hospital. And I walked out on my own. They said that she's going to be there for a while.
She hadn't been acting right, Mark said. No one around has been acting right lately. Maybe the sequence that follows featuring Bucky and the mirror relates to that information. We know Bucky's mascot actor wasn't acting right. He'd been displaying seriously abnormal behavior right up until he killed Olivia. But you don't know how abnormal until you investigate the folder Connor hid inside the game. The first subfolder you see is marked 3. Those 3 are Gary, Nathan, and Olivia. We know the most so far about Olivia, but let's see what else she's got on file. For each person, there's a textures folder for an associated character model, confirming that the employees killed were other mascot actors. There's a text document titled Events, which reads, Olivia Finch was found at the bottom of a lake right outside the cabins at Broadside Beach's staff quarters. When located, she appeared to be waterlogged. It looked like something out of a horror movie, said Hillary Stocks, her cabin mate. There was a long trail of blood leading all the way from the window of Olivia's cabin to the lake at which she was found. The footage we've seen is here too, making it easier to see the shadow of Bucky as a mascot outside the window. Here are 2 photos of Olivia while still alive. Here she is in her costume for Olive Otter. And here is her body, mutilated by Bucky's actor and bloated from the lake. Everything you see in the game when it comes to this stuff is from 3D modeling, by the way. Don't worry. It's just very good modeling. The folder also includes Olive's in-game model, which is cool, and some audio files including her in-game voice, the phone call we've heard, and a call that came before it.
Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
Hello, this is Olivia Finch. I'd like to please submit a complaint. Anonymously, please. Brandon has been showing up every night to my residence. Brandon Lester, you know, the other costume guy? He just walks by, still wearing the suit, sometimes just placing his hand on the window. Other times, he'd grab the sliding glass door, jiggle the handle around, like he wanted in. I'll let the dead eyes of that stupid costume stare back at me. Last night, though, is the reason I'm doing this. Brandon walked over and just began to slam his head against the door. I don't know why, but it kept me up for the several hours this went on. He only left it around 4 a.m, stumbling away, leaving a gross stain all over the window. Please, just deal with him. I can't afford to keep losing sleep.
Brandon Lester, the other costume guy. That confirms it. Brandon is the name on the Hangman game, and the name that fits the letters associated with the Bucky statue. He'd been stalking Olivia for more than one night before he attacked, seemingly possessed, and leaving some kind of residue after banging his head multiple times, as if trying to break in with his skull. In any slasher scenario, we come around to the question of why. On occasion, a slasher exists simply because murder comes to them as naturally as a craving. But in most cases, there is a reason. After seeing the footage behind failing the minigames, we do question why Bucky's actor slaughtered his co-workers, and it's apparent that whatever was going on with him didn't seem natural, as far as the usual menu of what's natural for a slasher goes, anyway. Let's take a look at Nathan next, who played Walter Walrus. His textures include a fun secret. I hate you, Mark. The footage included is different from what we saw at the end of Walter's minigame. Here are 2 pictures of Nathan. Here is what his corpse looked like. And here is a report of the injury sustained as Bucky's actor beat him to death with a chair, apparently piercing his body with the legs. As for Gary, Giovanni Goose, we've seen that footage. Here is Gary as he was alive. Here is his corpse after Bucky finished killing him by putting his head in an oil fryer. What happened to Brandon anyway? Connor said the pictures from Broadside included 4 bodies. And what's this about a girl killed on the cruise and a boy with a near-death experience in the park? For that matter, with so much carnage behind them, what actually happened to Rex, the animator who disappeared in the 80s? We're going to address that, but first, we need to uncover the secrets missed on our first playthrough, the ones that aren't tracked by the bonus room. Let's revisit the topic of Connor in terms of things you can uncover. Following minigame failures in the 1997 version, you can finally spot a reason to visit this area of the living quarters. A false wall. Go through and follow the stairs and door to emerge on top of one of these buildings. At the far end, you'll spot Chief Wulf, but interact with him and you'll realize he's Connor. Do you see that, he asks? Really soak it in. Hundreds and hundreds of polygons all working together to create the illusion of a real, living, breathing world. I built all of this. I'm an artist, right? I built this. My mouse is like a brush. Keyboard is my canvas. I'm so grateful. He really couldn't help himself, huh? It's an interesting choice. Connor easily could have used a sign. In fact, when you stand on the beach and look toward these buildings, you can see something on top of one of them, hard to discern, that compels you to find any way to get up there. I don't believe that object is Connor using Chief Wulf's model, but the only thing you can find in this rooftop scenario is him. Connor most likely used Wulf as a sort of avatar because he is the chief. It's possible everyone in Cogware developed a character. Connor made Chief Wulf, Liz made Stumbler, and maybe Harry made JD. Or Harry might have come up with something else, as we'll see shortly. Connor's presence as Wulf comes up a few times. When you fail his minigame, you end up in this underground area, and while Chief Wulf remains himself, he's around a table with a computer showing this screenshot from the Cogware site of Shipwrecked in development, a potential nod by Connor to himself. In the debug room, you can access some secrets. The first is the menu, bringing you to the boat sequence for the title screen. You can hop out of this boat, and after some running around, if you look back, you'll see Chief Wulf watching you, which I can't help but feel is just another moment of Connor feeling proud of his work and wanting to show up to take ownership. As for the other secret in this area I'm aware of, and the idea of Harry's contribution to the original characters, the Waterway minigame is here for you to play, to completion if you like, or you can run on the invisible floor for the water here until you fall into the ocean. Slow things down on that glitch, and you'll observe Horns and Chief Wulf in a boat. And at the end, you can catch Olive Otter in her drowning pose before the screen corrects itself. If we follow the concept that Connor uses Chief Wulf as self-representation, it's possible that when we see Horns, we should think of Harry. It's up in the air, Horns or JD, but it is a little mysterious that the only Cogware-related personnel we can confirm for Shipwreck's restoration are Liz and Patrick, Connor's son. Throughout the videos related to the game, EB Cogware and PT Cogware show up a lot. Elizabeth Baker, Liz B, and Patrick Thomas. No sign of Harry. And in the search to try turning over every rock seeing if something happens, I looked into what happens if you fail JD's minigame in the 1997 version. It's actually very simple. The volcano explodes. You get the bad ending. No changes, no secret paths seen along the way. So JD's area is a dead end here, but this debug room was a big secret found in Stumbler's minigame. Is there anything else out there for us and anybody else's? Yeah, every single other one. The first hint that you're able to discover more in the minigames that's kind of obvious through the failure to progress path comes through Giovanni's. It's hard to miss the sudden glitching section of ceiling in here after your first failure. If you're quick, you can build a triple jump and bounce right in. The murder scene, just like in Olive's failure path. Does that mean there's one to find in Walter's? Considering the cutscene between the two halves of Husk we saw earlier, there's plenty to see in Walter's. About half the time the world goes dark, you can see a huge image of something in the skybox, ranging from Rex the animator to Walter the Dweller, the monstrous version that lurks in Layer 3 and 4. You can also use Chief Wolf's second sight to see there's a boat way out in the distance, either a nod to the glitch in the debug room, or an indicator to use this area to try accessing something. If you're able, and persistent, you can wall jump up this section, land on an invisible floor, and approach a switch. But first take notice that Husk is watching you even here, from a building in the distance. A little reminder now that they've made appearances all throughout the game, observing your progress. Tapping the switch opens the video from the 1996 demo for Walter's Waterway, this very minigame, albeit in a different form than we know now. I'm not sure if this is a hint at using the demo version found in the debug room to discover the glitch sequence, or if this was indicating something reveals the murder scene using Bucky and Walter models I'd been hoping for while exploring this area. If that scene exists, like Olive and Giovanni's, I'm not sure how to find it yet. About Olive though, there's a multi-step secret in her minigame, and the clue is in the trailer for Shipwrecked. Falling off the edge of the beach like that shouldn't be possible, but Bucky just kept going in that one spot. So if we replicate it, we find a switch, and that switch opens a browser tab. There's a code in the description, 8439. Somehow we need to get up to that building where we'll use the code. Try the wall between the cabins and nothing happens, because there's an extra trick to this you have to figure out through trial and error, and I caught it. You'll need to go to this exact chest and open it, spawning in a mirror. Once you've done that, go back to the wall between the cabins, and in the very center, without any indicator, there's now a false wall. Run between the buildings ahead of you to the right, and you'll catch a cabin with a fire burning in the back, someone's face on a poster. It can't be matched to any of our victims. I suspect this is Brandon. I'm also using the mirror as a potential clue to this being his identity, and possibly his cause of death if he did die. Run to the back of this building and you'll find a door. Through it, you appear in a room with a big floating message in the distance. B time equals true, the boolean for time in the game. Enter the code on the keypad and you prompt a secret video. Return to the game, and you'll see B time equals false. You've just frozen time within the game at 1 p.m., eliminating any difficulties with midnight or the sleeping system. And it appears there's another way you can do this through Chief Wolf's minigame. In Slumber Woods, in the furthest corner you see to the east with a boat piece, you can see a keypad on a rock. There is this 2-arrow sign on the way here, which might lead you to believe the code is the opposite direction. But I've explored and haven't found anything to the west. Instead, go to the left of the rock and forward, revealing a computer with a color code. Yes, you would only be able to solve this on a second playthrough, having learned the color cipher. Enter the pattern 3899, opening a browser tab for a video titled Studio Grounds. Do you remember the clip that played in front of the video footage of the Husk? This is everything that came before, a Studio Grounds vacation for a child's 13th birthday. And the first day at the park, they saw this poster for meeting Walter Walrus, the same scene in the Blue Room at the Waterway advertising a Frontier Street meet and greet. I was having so much fun, the kid says, and it was only 1 p.m., but my mom wanted to stop by the Frontier Street Museum for a while. Boring. Some audio played over the speakers, which was kinda cool. At the end, we can hear a clip of the same audio from the Frontier Street Museum in-game. Now, if this secret is found in the level with horns, showing that poster of Walter, which we see in the Blue Room with a trophy head of horns, what does that mean? And for that matter, why is the wolf lying on the bed in this room dead? Is this a match for the note by Connor about a boy who had a near-death experience that was covered up? Are we being told here that the boy who ran into the Husk died? I've gone through this area and the Frontier Street Museum with the time locked at 1 p.m. to see if it would activate something. It hasn't. That doesn't mean there isn't something. It's possible that a script did not play. But so far, all I can relate is that it locked the time and gave me this video of a child's visit that ended in meeting the Husk. As for what's left of secrets on this layer, using the computer in Slumber Woods as a jumping point, you can get on top of the rocks and look out into the horizon. Immediately, you'll see a giant floating horns model and a whole building which looks like a labyrinth. Not sure what this is, but it's an interesting sight. There's also the act of waiting on the menu for 2 full runs of the music. And I can comment on a few other things concerning this layer and exploration. While playing Walter's minigame, if you start failing, but then begin playing legitimately when the lights go out, the game will try to push you into another failure state by inverting your controls. It was a surprise, and not an entirely welcome one while trying to make the wall jump to the secret platform, but a cool discovery. There's a curiosity for those visiting the beach and keeping an eye out after achieving a minigame failure. The boat will be ready for you, no matter what else you've done. Go on, take it. See what happens.
Perfect! Oh, Peggy, thank you. I'll meet you at the store so we can have.
And there, have that achievement unlocked, the confused ending. I also discovered if you leave the pause menu on for too long, the camera will tilt over time, leaving it in this odd position. Just another fun inclusion to make you notice how the game changes, I believe. And while all players will, at some point after killing the characters, hear them suddenly crying out in a chorus of "Stop it," there is another odd sound that can suddenly play and put you immediately on edge. It's possible that this is a sound alluding to the Husk, or it's just something else that's horrible and makes you wonder if you're about to be attacked or scared on Layer 1. Finally, have you noticed that Bucky just keeps looking at the ground? Turning to face him head-on is difficult. It's like you can't get him to look you in the eye. Brandon's actions may be weighing on him. This doesn't let up as we journey into the lower layers. You'll find that beyond Layer 2, there actually aren't many secrets to uncover outside regular gameplay. I believe this is because the gameplay at this point is directly focused on major secrets as the actual story direction. There just isn't much for Connor to have hidden now that you're down here, but there are some points of interest. Once again, examining the public videos related to Broadside Beach gives us indicators of what to do. You can find the whole playlist on Squeaks the Corgi's channel. Shipwrecked 64 catalog. Observe the video demo of the inclusion of the convention demo for Cogware's technology. There's footage here of a keypad that doesn't exist in the full game, or isn't visible. But if it's there, what would be the code? Well, you're right outside a room showing off a colored light display, right? With 4 colors. Give it a shot and you'll find there is a keypad. Remember where the numbers are, type in the code for the lights here, and unlock an entire hallway in the room. At the end, a switch, prompting a browser tab with this, Husk at night, saying, "It's gonna take a long time to heal." Strangely enough, the web address is a page under the bulletin header. I've wondered at points just how many pages are in the Cogware sites, and I don't believe I've encountered them all, especially after finding out that running into the monster version of Bucky opens new tabs on the sly in the late portion of the game. Here's just 2 of them out of however many there are. I still remember my face, and smile for me, dear. Speaking of the monsters, in the effort to turn over every rock and get one of the notes at the end of Layer 3, I had to get caught and wind up in the cell. If you do that, Bucky is not happy with you. You're the bane of my existence, friend. Like, really? Really? You got us thrown in a cell. What is wrong with you? Look, 2 options. Either we use the respawn button and go home, or you find a way to break us out. I'm not using my buck teeth to chew through the bars, so don't ask about that. And he'll keep on going too if you use the code to escape. Let it be known, friend, I hate you. Genuinely. Remember when I asked you to take me home? Yeah, that. Whatever happened to that? Why am I even calling you that? You're not my friend. I don't even know you. Just keep going. I don't care anymore. Jeez, that started funny, but the latter half ended the laughter. Considering what's down here though, I'm not sure I can blame Bucky. And as for them, you've surely seen by now if you've played. You've met the Starlings, which is their true name. These are some of the most terrifying enemies I've ever encountered playing an indie horror game. Internet horror as a scene is littered with grotesque versions of cartoon characters and kids' entertainment mascots in the wake of Freddy's. But these are a successful batch of twisted things lurking in the dark. And we're going to talk plenty about why these are so effective later, but our next stop in uncovering secrets has to do with the Starlings. How did we get from these ugly but bearable mascot suits to these hideous, distorted things? Layer 3's first half does allow you to use only 2 gate controls to move on, yes, but there is a reason to explore all 3 areas. Inside of each is a switch that opens a browser tab for a video, with only a third of the screen playing. The logic is simple. Collect all 3, place them in a video editor, stitch them together, and get the info. In Olive's area, you'll find the switch on the back of this computer, easy to miss if you're focused on the 2 paths ahead. Now, the third, in the office-style setting, is the most difficult to catch. If you tap this switch and just keep going, you may not spot that the wall it's on isn't quite right. Even then, investigating by walking into it stops you from moving, suggesting the wall is real and it's just a visual error. But if you walk in at the right spot, you're looking through Bucky's model into another room, seeing a table in front of you. Jump up and in, and you've found the area's video switch. When it comes to the graffiti on the wall here, I don't know what to make of it yet, or who even wrote it. Is it Liz talking about Connor? Is it Connor talking about someone else? I'm inclined to believe it isn't Connor. If we assume the angry notes in the beginning of Layer 3 are Connor's, the handwriting doesn't seem to match, and the tone is different. The message, too. Interesting. And Chief Wulf's eyes are drawn above the door. Makes you wonder. I'm stalling. Or maybe I'm just hesitant. Because I put the video together as soon as I had the pieces. I needed to know what it was. And I think, in order to present it properly, I need to guide you back through the experience leading up to this moment. I have a lot I need to say about what this video is and how it is, and it answers some questions. But let me introduce one more element of the game to consider before moving on, because it's all I've got left for secrets and mysteries before this next piece bridges the topic into a review of Shipwrecked 64's design. In the bonus room of the walkable menu, you'll have access to the secrets and the gallery. What we need to observe are a few items. These nightmarish images of the characters attached to names, including Brandon for Bucky, and this, the Studio Grounds Vandal, a very blue weasel sloth rat type of creature with a lot of bloodstains. Finally, the art for the statue known as the Husk. Who is the Vandal? Have we seen him before? If your suspicion is that he's the character marked JD in the game as an original creation of Cogware, then following a clue from the end of the game on a YouTube channel, JD from Bullet N will confirm it in the most surprising way.
Hello, friends! Nice to see you all again. Today, I just wanted to leave a little message on here for my buddy Mark. Yes, that Mark. He's a good friend of mine, you know. I just wanted to show him, and you all, something as well. Look at that! Quite a luxurious house, huh? Here's the front, if you were curious. Oh, there's a nice view of the mountains, too.
So JD stalked Mark Mullins, the CEO of Broadside, and posted about it on Bullet N. He also uploaded this curiosity. The description reads, "Home Sweet Home." So JD comes from this messed up, fleshy cave system under Broadside Beach? Now, for that description in the secrets, the Studio Grounds Vandal, the security camera shot of him in the gallery, and the early footage we saw from one of the signs as the first hint of secrets in the 1997 version, we can estimate that he may have had something to do with what happened at Studio Grounds by Mark's own words in the meeting when the game's funding was pulled. Maybe it wasn't a kid running into the Husk. Maybe it was Vandal. We've got a few other shots of Vandal, by the way. In the background of the confused ending. And sure, it's confusing suddenly seeing Vandal here. But did you also know he's hiding in the Cogware website? If you click on the Shipwrecked title screen, you'll go to the game's page. In the first paragraph, the word rabbits has a link attached to the A. Click it and see this footage on a page titled Hotel with Vandal sneaking around. The title screen in-game has one more thing for you. Just type Vandal and check out the browser tab that activates. Is anybody else wondering what's up with the golden statue? This looks like a bear, a character we haven't seen. In fact, it looks more like the character on the original game cartridge, who most certainly isn't Bucky. There may be a few characters in Broadside's history we've never seen, actually. Now, we discussed earlier if JD represents Harry from Cogware. I don't think much of that idea anymore. I think we have solid evidence as to who JD the Vandal actually is. I believe the suit was provided by Cogware since they made him for the game, and this video was on their website. But in terms of this being Harry, to answer that, we need to discuss the completed video from Layer 3. To get there, you and I need to take a walk. Let's say that in your first playthrough, you resolve to know the story through everything provided by minigame failures, tape recorders, and notes. By the game's end, you've collected a lot of lore and experiences, and you've got questions. Most players aren't going to stop their playthrough to splice 3 videos together, or even have a video editor or the knowledge to use one. Knowing that, let's experience Shipwrecked 64 from that perspective, the most common perspective for everyone who's played, and its impressions on us from the start. In Layer 1, we learn why Shipwrecked was taken off shelves very quickly. Hidden footage of 3 murders, performed by someone wearing a Bucky Beaver mascot outfit, plus 1 creepy-looking Vandal on security cams. The situation, according to the info available by the end of Layer 2, is clear. Bucky Beaver and his friends are cartoons produced by Broadside Animation, created by this man, Rex. Broadside ran 2 theme parks, Broadside Beach, an island location reachable by cruise ship, and Studio Grounds, a much more accessible park in the United States. The murders committed by Brandon using the Bucky costume occurred in January of 1990, and by this point in our exploration, all clues indicate they occurred at Broadside Beach, the island that Shipwrecked is modeled after. So up to entering Layer 3, what we understand about this story is very much like a found footage slasher scenario. Something was wrong with Brandon, and he went on a killing spree. Maybe he'd been waiting all along for an environment that made the perfect hunting ground, or maybe whatever sanity held his violent tendencies in place was worn away on the job, either through cabin fever or isolation. But this is our understanding. We have a theme park by an animation and movie studio, where someone in a starring character costume slaughtered 3 other character actors, and they covered it up and moved on to a new park while trying to silence whistleblowers about how dangerous the island resort always was. So far, this is incredibly compelling, plausible, and drives you forward to learn more, mainly about Brandon and what drove him to murder his castmates. We also want to know how Cogware got this information. On Layer 3, we get into the logs and notes. Connor and Liz being so excited working on the game, things going well, then things going not so well. We know from the debug room that Liz made Stumbler, and how that conversation with Connor ended up influencing Stumbler's design. And then we get hints through Connor's logs about why he would have done that. Recording by recording, a picture forms, helped along by the audio from Mark Mullins, who is not doing well in this period as CEO. His wife, Harley, is hospitalized with an illness, and no one else appears to be doing well. The company is collapsing too, and he's just trying to get a grip. We know Harley's story is tragic. She has her arm amputated, and in the course of the game's development, she dies. Our understanding by the end of Layer 3 is that Mark is also the lead of a company struggling to beat horrific controversies. Connor found a lot of them, an entire history of death and tragedy to Broadside's name. And before the final meeting audio, we could tell what happened. The game's funding would be pulled, and Connor would use the hard drive's evidence as a massive drop inside Shipwrecked 64 as an act of revenge. This system of logs and audio notes is awesome, and none of it is so directly expository that it feels out of place. The devlogs make sense, and the inclusion of recordings made by Mark found on the hard drive that Connor grabbed makes sense, because Connor would want people to hear those. Every act of giving us lore in this game, up to Connor's folder drop, comes to us in audio files, notes, photos, or security footage, and it's all either in-game or makes sense in context, like the folder download to help spread the evidence of 3 murders that Broadside covered up. That's the big point of it all, right? 3 murders, here they are. Broadside is filthy, and guests at their theme park have died, including children. This is the delivery system we're accustomed to the entire game. It feels right, it's rewarding, it's plausible, and it all feeds into a believable central narrative. That's a very big thing I need to stress here. It's a scary retro game story you actually can believe, because its shocking elements are supported by real-world horror and logic, a reality-grounded narrative about cover-ups for grisly events, including a serial-killing character actor on a privately owned island. Everything Connor has access to that's major and needed to be out there was left for us in an accessible and very consistent way we can absolutely believe, and the story feels legitimate. There are no ghosts, there are no evil entities, nothing is cursed. It's just one very furious game dev whose dreams have been crushed by a company in decline trying to hide their corpses. So what is going on with the Starlings? These are supposed to be monster versions of the murder victims, right? Why do they look like this? And why do Olive and Giovanni have metal objects sticking out of their bodies? If they're murder victims, is it anywhere near plausible that Connor would have made them out to be horrible monsters attacking the player? As awful as he was about easing Stumbler to mock Harley's amputation, this seems like a step too far even for him. Well, we have information available to us about the Starlings. The 3 videos you have to stitch together from Layer 3, when combined, give you the rundown. And I'd like you to watch this keeping in mind the way all the major lore given to us so far has gone, the kind of story it's told up to this point, and the way that everything about lore drops and circumstances in this scenario given by the game have felt. Olivia Finch, Gary Wilson, Nathan Stewart. That's the wrong picture for Gary, by the way, according to the folder we received from Connor. Causes of death. Olivia Finch was found at the bottom of the lake right outside the cabins at Broadside Beach's staff quarters. When located, she appeared to be waterlogged. It looked like something out of a horror movie, said Hillary Stocks, her cabin mate. There was a long trail of blood leading all the way from the window of Olivia's cabin to the lake at which she was found. Gary Wilson was found in the Broadside Beach staff kitchen, blood surrounding his face. He was seen with his head in the deep fat fryer, with his body slouched over the edge. His back, as well, seemingly was broken in many different areas. Nathan Stewart was found in the Broadside Animation offices, with several large gashes in his face. Something seemingly had grabbed an office chair, jamming it full force right through the left side of his face, coming all the way through the back of his head. Starling conversion. Starlings are a creature that is, in part, manufactured by Broadside Innovation Labs. Found on the Broadside Beach attraction, an island previously known as Nulla Terra, a strange mineral was found in what workers called stitch caves, large holes in the island, full of veins, and seemingly some kind of strange, fleshy substance within the dirt and rock of the island. When researched, this material seemed to possess strange abilities. Every single chunk of the material appeared to have its own pulse. When combining the material with some kind of living organism, first attempted upon rats, it seemed to cause the subjects to jitter and twitch. When the skin was removed from the rats, the effect was even stronger. New bones, not previously seen on that of a rat, began to form, like plants sprouting from soil. Any creature infused with the material appears to alter and change its skeletal structure to fit whatever condition they are in. When the 3 victims emerged, it was in our best interest to fix that before it became a public ordeal. When I assembled the pieces and watched this, I was not happy. In fact, I wished I hadn't found this at all. And then I had to open up that emotion and ask myself why that was. Why did I feel so upset about this? Because that is what I was feeling, and I realized it more as it set in. I was upset at this video, and I truly didn't want to be. But what was it about this that plummeted my mood so deeply? The first thing I admitted to myself was that, genuinely, It's become incredibly tiring to experience more projects doing the same body-mutating organism horror theme. It's oversaturated in unfiction now. It's a trope, and it's gotten annoying. But then I had to ask why it was annoying to me, when I found it worked so well in Gemini Home Entertainment and Midwest Angelica. Why would those two projects get a thumbs up doing this, while Shipwrecked 64 didn't? Was it actually a plot device oversaturation so bad that it needed to go to sleep for 10 years to be fresh again? No, I realized. People could just stand to be a bit more creative with it so it wouldn't feel tired already. And the best way to do that is great execution. And that's when I understood why this video felt wrong. The projects that have done this well did it entirely to their unique executions, in manners consistent with their style and world build, delivering believable presentation that was fresh and plausible for their setups. In Shipwrecked 64, I didn't buy it. Not in the least. It's entirely at odds with everything the game has been up to now, especially if you find it after your first full playthrough. And funny enough, Shipwrecked 64 shows everything wrong with underdeveloped analog horror projects across the band, just by including an analog horror video piece that exemplifies the many flaws dragging those projects down. First, this company is Broadside Animation. They are an animation company. They make movies and cartoons and merchandise. They make theme parks. Any kind of innovation lab that would show up related to a company like that would not, in any plausible way, be related to biological organism studies and making zombies. But let's entertain the idea for a moment. Let's just say that in the story they did, and the entire reason for it was because they discovered some kind of mutating thing on the island. Do you think they would share information with employees working on this using serious documents, audio log lab reports, and confidential photographs and videos, or make aesthetically pleasing videotapes with scrolling text over pleasant music and flashy animated intros? I'm thinking they would keep it strictly to lab reports, audio logs, photos, and experiment videos, instead of spending hours at the computer in the mid-90s to make something like this. I also don't believe two other things in terms of construction. The way it's written, which is very, we're not sure, but it seems like this happened, in its conveyance, even though Broadside knows every detail of every murder, or the way anything is described in the Starling conversion section. None of it feels scientific or like it's seriously informing fellow employees. And in sharpest contrast to the greatest writing in Shipwrecked 64, it's deeply expository in the ways that all the weakest analog horror projects are, failing to adhere to writing in a manner consistent with the world build they're attempting to deliver. And the whole thing about experiments on rats, combining the material with living rats made them jitter and twitch. It says living rats here, right? But removing their skin resulted in a bigger effect and new bones formed, spreading out to fit whatever condition they were in. Then, when the 3 victims emerged, it was in our best interest to fix that before it became a public ordeal, and were shown the suits. So what's the insinuation here? They skinned rats, injected them with the organic cave material, then let them grow inside the mascot costumes to fill them out and be weird rat zombies just to cover for the deaths of Gary, Nathan, and Olivia? And they placed their bet on this working because they would jitter and twitch enough to seem alive? That was the plan? That's a lot of insane work to go through, battling controversies or not. And obviously, if this affects living organisms, then we've probably got a good explanation for what happened to Brandon, Harley, everyone who hadn't been acting right, maybe even Rex, who died due to unknown circumstances. In fact, that's probably why Harley's arm was amputated. The mutation ruined her arm, and doctors thought they could stop the spread. And still she died. As for Brandon, he was infected already according to Olivia's first phone call. Or it wasn't Brandon at all, just an early experiment. Or Brandon was killed by the infection and became a zombie inside the suits. This video also appears to be at odds with the overall lore because it's telling us that living tissue works with the island material, but the origin of the Husk is that 3 men and 1 woman were left to rot together and fused into this talking creature, which implies that Broadside did experiment on the corpses of the murdered character actors, and that lines up with the way this video ends. So which is it? Living tissue is what works, or living and dead? Rat zombies or people zombies? No matter how you splice it, there is one incontrovertible point to be made about this video. It clashes with the entire design and lore layout of Shipwrecked 64 as a project in every way. It's incredibly expository, while the game has been smarter than that all along. The writing is poor in construction and logic, while all other lore drops and inclusion of horrifying and violent elements have been so brilliantly justified. The presentation is entirely inconsistent with the pattern of lore drops throughout the game, which makes it very tonally harsh and disruptive to the flow of narrative and atmosphere. It directly changes the understanding of a real-world horror plot so carefully built through all the ways it was presented to us. And the Husk segment doesn't excuse it, because that was shrouded in mystery and intrigue that kept us under the narrative spell. And finally, if this was part of the big pile of horrors Broadside was responsible for, why didn't the material come to us in that folder we worked so hard for after encountering the Starlings? Why wasn't this lore given to us through forms that, when read carefully, or watched intently, or listened to closely, gradually revealed what Starlings were and how they were made? Why didn't this very important and shocking information come across in the same way we'd been encountering secrets all along in the gameplay, but on a harder difficulty of finding it because it was deep lore? ARG's work in the manner of giving you puzzle pieces and seeing you put them together. That was so much of the fun of finding the secrets, listening to the recordings, reading the notes, unlocking the footage, finding the logically written pieces of evidence related to Broadside Beach, and putting it together for a chain of rewarding aha moments, all while making us believe in the scenario. The issue isn't that body mutating organisms are showing up in another unfiction project. That's just not the case. It's that the execution of this is so deeply not Shipwrecked 64. It clashes with our understanding of the narrative and the vibes it gave all the way up. I know I say it a lot, but I say it all the time because it's so important. Execution is what makes or breaks your project's total success. Your ability to make us believe and keep us believing through every action you take in design and story conveyance is one of your most critical responsibilities as a storyteller. And the way you do that is by staying consistent and introducing crazy new elements in ways that don't feel like they're crazy or just crash through the wall from someone else's project. If this information had been given to us piece by piece through audio logs, photos, security footage, and documents, even models hidden in secret rooms hinting at it, stuff we had to work to find along with the other secrets, or in Connor's folder drop, then I would have bought it hook, line, sinker, and the whole damn fishing pole. I would have accepted it with a smile and said, "Oh wow, it's zombies. I didn't expect that. How deliciously twisted." The presentation of the lore and the logic behind the secrets is what made me believe this entire time. It is one of the highest strengths of this project and one of the ways that it blows away its peers. The Starling video is the only grievous error in the entire project. Shipwrecked 64 is gold. It's already one of my favorite projects ever and an example for all creators to learn from on so many levels. It is a rightful inspiration to so many people already, I know it is. But the Starling video is aluminum, and its importance to understanding the monsters was so major and so inconsistent with the entire design that it necessitated me being more harshly critical than John Wulf on a fake ghost hunting video. I will always be sharpest in critique with creators who are absolutely kicking ass in quality throughout, and Squeaks the Corgi's feet are gonna need a month of cooldown. If you're in the honor roll of the advanced class, you've earned the red pen lectures all across your essays, because you're capable of that 105 score, and I'm going to do my damnedest to help you reach it before you start writing for admissions to Ivy League colleges, because that is the quality of your work and where you are headed. And beyond all that, I know he can handle it and welcomes it. And later, I'll get to show you what proves that and makes me so joyful about this project outside the experience I've had and every way it succeeds. My final note concerning this video, by the way, is actually a positive. By nature of being so optional and something you have to go the extra mile to see, it doesn't ruin the standard experience of Shipwrecked 64 at all. You can play the entire game through all its layers, all the way to the truest ending, and nothing is taken away. You're left wondering what the deal is behind the Husk existing and why the Starlings look like that. But honestly, that's pretty par for the course in a horror game. You don't get a lot of questions like this answered until a later installment. If I had never found the Starling conversion video, I'd have nothing major to complain about. But we do have a few other matters to discuss, having learned about the fuller nature of Nulliterra, the Broadside Beach Island, so let's move on. There are implications in the game that the Blot Starling suit is not just some rat-based organism. And if you look at the Starling model versus what you see in the animations, you'll realize that it's true. There is a human being in that suit. See the eye inside the mascot's eye? The teeth coming out beneath the mouth? It's hinted that the Blot costume's operator is Rex, not only due to his death from unknown circumstances, but audio that plays when Blot appears using the NATO alphabet. Romeo, Echo, X-ray. He was either one of the island's first casualties of infection, or was infected purposely to remove him from Broadside's operations. And then we have the lore that begins on Blot's level. In 1995, there was a mass made of 4 men. 3 men and 1 woman, to be exact. It sat in a room, waiting for its liberation. That would not come for years. The mass of 4 men sat in the room. It writhed and twitched like a dying animal, but it was still very much alive. It craved freedom, liberation, and happiness, and it begged to leave until it finally escaped, making it outside and splitting in half. This is the origin of the Husk, at least one of the mass's halves, which took the form of the odd statue at Studio Grounds and now haunts us in the game, waiting to introduce itself until the end. Husk makes it clear that it's some kind of new being formed from the body stored together and the organic matter from the island. It can hear the voices of the Starlings. Beyond that, it doesn't tell us much about itself. There is a possibility that the Starlings aren't rat-based or animal-based as we spoke of earlier, because of the whole living tissue versus dead tissue issue. These really could be the character actors reanimated into horrible monsters, then disposed of. Violently, it seems, looking at Olive and Giovanni. The question comes up next how Husk even factors into the game. There's almost always a moment in projects when we need to just go with something and not question its hard logic writing because, you know, a little mystery left in the world, right? But it does make you wonder which elements dealing with Broadside's true history were added by Liz and Patrick, if any. And that's where we could find writing logic in Connor excluding information on the Starlings from the folder, as well as everything to do with them and the Husk. Even the Starling models and animations could be amped up with today's tech because of the current team. Maybe Connor's version didn't make you grip your controller nearly as much. We don't have clarity on who did what, except for this note about the 1997 version being unaltered, making us wonder if the recovery team did add anything. If they did, that could explain things better and fill gaps that make us wonder if the writing logic for certain pieces was never actually done. That doesn't mean we can't get it much later though, or potentially in other places. Here's something we can get a clue about. The other half of the mass. Remember, it split in 2, and one half became the Husk. Where's the other half? It might be inside of Vandal, which would explain why he tracked Mark to his vacation home. A few clues give this away, all of them on JD's channel. In the house tour video, we can get a good look at the suit moving around, and there's no glimpse of a person. I consider this a lighter clue compared to the others, starting with what's in JD's YouTube channel banner. A drawing of him next to the face of the Husk. There's also the only other video on the channel that I saw at this time, about the caves underneath Broadside Beach, which he declares as home sweet home. Only the organic matter found here would have called it home sweet home, right? The question of Harry, the 3rd member of Cogware, is still out there. But I'm a lot less inclined to suspect that he's acting as Vandal. I do suspect Cogware has something to do with Vandal existing, especially after seeing the footage from their sites, but I'm leaning toward the idea it's the other half of the mass comprised of the original Starlings, out for revenge. Mark Mullins probably met a really nasty end if they were out for him. I'd also like to know what Vandal left in the kitchen. Maybe a severed arm. And this brings us to the final point in discussing secrets and mysteries. We have more mysteries after all, like, why did they actually proceed with the Starling experiments using the suits? Can we settle the issue of rat monsters or actor zombies? What really went on with Brandon, and why did he go on a killing spree? What happened at studio grounds that was so bad Mark Mullins mentioned it at the meeting when he played Shipwrecked? The answers to a lot of these questions do exist. They are out there, and it is canon, but it's not in the game. It's not in a place that you should go at all, actually. And that's a discussion pertaining to Shipwreck 64's design and history. But to even approach that topic, we first need to review the design. To go through the clean, as it should have been version of the game as the player's first task is a masterstroke in experiential design. It lends credibility to the claims of the fictional development team and their desire to present everything to the best of their ability, while giving you the taste of what was meant to be. It gets you comfortable with Shipwrecked immediately, and even as you're getting comfortable, you know for a fact that it isn't going to last. Way back in 2017, when I covered Resident Evil 7, we explored exactly this process, and I can't say it better here than I did about almost exactly now, 7 years ago. The foundation of creating fear in any form of media is the same as creating immersion in any fictional property. Getting the participant to believe in the world you're showing them. The suspension of disbelief is all about providing evidence for the viewer or player to doubt their disbelief, so they become comfortable in your false reality. Once you've tricked them into accepting your lie and then believing it, the player or viewer becomes adjusted enough to form emotional and mental connective tissue with the world they're viewing. So what happens inside affects those connected. By way of presenting Shipwreck 64 as an authentic presentation of the game in its original conception first, like a museum piece you can play, and then handing us the 1997 edition, Squeaks the Corgi achieved exactly this effect. The atmosphere all around the launch, the hub area, making choices, it all speaks to a connection with the dev team, even while giving you an air of unease. It makes it feel more legitimate, and once you play through the 2023 version, you're comfortable with Shipwrecked and its characters. You have created the movie theater seats, made someone at ease in it, and turned on the projector. Now you have us, and we already know we're in for a horror movie, but we don't know the details. Even when you get your first hint that something's not right through the signs for Layer 2, you're not exactly scared. Your curiosity is piqued and you're ready to explore, knowing a world you've just gotten familiar with is about to go to some very dark places. Placing Giovanni in the theater was one of the smartest choices that could have been made, considering how absolutely brutal and sudden his scare is once you fail 2 states. You're much more likely to run into Olive or Walter first, both of whom give you a slower kind of jolt. Walter's through the ramping up of activity in the skybox and inverting your controls, ending with the calmest security footage we have of Brandon's murders. And Olive's through a slow buildup of the atmosphere of morbid curiosity and dread inside the cabin before her murder plays. This effect even carries over to Giovanni, by way of making us aware the black screen happens too quickly, and the interaction button for him isn't working after the second failure states. We have time to realize things aren't right. In fact, something isn't working, something is downright wrong. So we try it again and again, confused, ask what's going on, and then... Perfect execution. The range of emotions run their course, and then the axe drops. As for Chief Wolf's minigame, Horns is a dorky monster, but still creepy enough in this context that you don't want to be caught, and he's very unexpected, which works for the atmosphere. The footage also does start to deteriorate for getting caught on failure 2, leading to the full collapse on the 3rd. This is such an important thing to observe all around for Layer 1's playthrough in 1997. The scares are all here, but they are not without build-up. and they are not immediately accessible. Squeaks has made you comfortable, primed you all along to be a little on edge, made you largely forget you're in a horror game, raised curiosity to find the scares, and generated tension before delivering them. And these scares are not threats. Did you ever notice that? Nothing here is actually hurting you. It's scary, it's deeply uncomfortable and shocking, but you're not under attack. And guess what? That makes your feelings of unease much worse. Going back and forth between the areas of Layer 2 and Layer 1, where you've erased the Happy Island music and your friends, you can still be given a reason to dismiss your feeling of comfort. Those random sounds that play, be it the rustling of what may be the husk, or the sudden cries of your dead friends telling you to stop. And again, take note of what Squeaks did here. You will get comfortable running back and forth, recognizing that nothing is scaring you. You're allowed to get comfortable again, even while knowing things aren't totally safe. So then you're shown that things can still happen, keeping you on edge. Even the changes of the footage on the projector in the theater assist in this way. It's not hurting you, but you've been shown some horrific things in footage like this. And why did it change suddenly? You can't see around the corner over there. Are you safe? That's the genius of the entire design from the start of 1997. You're constantly going between a feeling of being safe to suddenly realizing you may not be, and you don't know if a hit is coming or not. That's the difference between how Squeaks designed a successful experience and so many others who fail this sort of thing. It's designed with the true technique for scaring. Every single time, you are given stimulus for rising tension before your hit, and you gain rising tension because a moment ago, you were at some level of comfort and feeling in control. Comfort, tension, scare. That's the process. It's like muscle confusion for the emotions, an act of making you think you've got this, then no, you certainly don't. You must create the emotional atmosphere to be at most fear. It's the atmosphere that earns the scare. If you are making something scary, take it to heart. This is a law that goes back to the dawn of horror movies. The emotional atmosphere earns the scare. This carries as you explore Layer 2, which largely keeps you comfortable, but occasionally provides reasons for being cautious as you enter on areas and strange things happen. Even the, again, atmosphere of the oppressively red and empty diner makes you wonder what you're walking into, raising the tension. And it works because it's in such contrast to what you've experienced before it. You've been at peace with happy and colorful environments here already and shown you can't trust them, so not even Olive's pool is without a light sense of dread. But as you complete Layer 2's areas, you don't hit anything truly terrifying. Mostly, what you get is puzzle solving and lore, both of which are done quite intelligently. The puzzles can challenge you. The approach that Squeaks took in making players look things up outside the game isn't common, but we've grown accustomed to puzzles having their ciphers or solutions just in the next room, or delivered to us by characters over dialogue and collectible documents. Not everyone is going to like this, while others are going to absolutely love it. If you are a fan of ARGs and the classic idea of ARGs, then you probably love this and will defend it with your whole chest, especially when you remember the context. These were secrets meant for dedicated adults to uncover back in 1997, guarding grisly information. As we receive them now, that time of secrecy has largely passed, and the time we're in can even explain the new Cogware team operating Stumbler and his guide. There probably was a Stumbler's guide back then, but there's modern touches like his Gmail account. In the 1997 edition as it shipped, whatever happened when you clicked those monitors for browser pages must have given either a literal link for you to write down and enter on a computer, or the video you were meant to watch and use for a code, with no YouTube to host it. So the YouTube angle, at least, would be new here. Overall, you have to do the legwork beyond just clicking a play button or going through normal means of play. That's what makes an ARG different from a video game or an interactive narrative. Yes, this is definitely putting the game in alternate reality game, and it's presented in the context of an alternate reality for sure, but the actual component of tapping into your dedication and figuring things out by following pieces and connecting them is here. Stumbler's Guide makes this easier, but you're not just given the material. You gotta Google, you gotta think, and for some of these secrets, you need to study outside material and apply it. Now, it's not all as happy as having a guide, and you're smart enough to beat certain moments, but there are elements in which neither a guide nor intuition has your back, and thinking isn't going to get you that far. I've got to critique the puzzle elements that aren't so hot, especially because of the nature of the project as being, primarily, a video game. A full-fledged ARG, as we understand it traditionally, has patience packaged in for its expectations. You're going to come up against walls and ruminate on how to get through them for a good day or week with a traditional ARG, and you'll probably have the help of other people. In a video game, you don't have the patience or motivation to bear being stuck on something longer than 15 minutes, and every minute that goes by over 10 just gets you to a point of anger. Some components of Shipwrecked want to challenge you in that ARG get-through-the-wall sense, but should not have been in the design, and the more difficult puzzle-it-out moments should be optional, not total progression blockers, because remember, this is a video game. There are puzzle elements with solutions that make sense and can be completely defended, but lack of adequate hinting on the way to those solutions can't be justified. In my opinion, these moments include the Steam achievement hint, though I see what the hinting was and that it tried to get there, it just wasn't strong enough. Every occasion in which a YouTube video had information in the description, or, much worse than that, a comment, and the need to get trapped in the cell while in the sewers, although that one only required a good hint about the cell area and isn't nearly as critical an issue to me. I've also got to admit that I really dislike the use of the same NATO phonetic alphabet audio clip in multiple places. It immediately gives players whenever it's heard the sense that the audio has the solution, and makes them waste precious time getting frustrated. One instance of this is its use in the magma video, which distracts from the fact that the volcanic eruption is what you need to pay attention to, and lack of mention to examine all publicly visible parts of videos anywhere on the journey makes players overlook the description. I've seen this happen to other players twice, which underscores how it really wasn't the way to go about using the YouTube video elements, and that while reusing ciphers is intelligent design, reusing specific puzzle pieces in this manner should have been avoided. I personally spent way too much time listening to the same NATO phonetic alphabet audio come out of horns as a potential method of solving the keypad in Slumber Woods, so that's 2 strikes against its multiple uses, either as a red herring or just a desire to reuse something in the game. For an experience like this, in which you already have the challenge of solving a puzzle, red herrings don't make your players happy. And again, on the YouTube videos, I wouldn't have made the descriptions or the comments the points in which you find what you need. Using them to hint at something in the video or title, yes. Using them to convey crucial elements, no. Most people ignore video descriptions and comment sections by nature. The video and the title are what's immediately in front of players' faces. Those are the only 2 components where critical information should have been. Especially off target, and I really do have to hammer this one, is the issue with the crystal video. I can accept its dual usage in the Plaza, and I even think it's clever, especially because if you fail the terminal run because you ignored the last 4 notes hint directly next to a keypad, you're going to suddenly remember or come across it again asking where the last computers were, and the solution clicks into place. It's a very easy thing for a player to set themselves up for, and they will get it, they will. But having a video with a Mozart cipher involve music that runs past the relevant portion, and then having to specify where that relevant portion starts in a comment is just bad design. Why didn't you just trim the video and re-upload it with the new link attached to the Switch? Is it because just hearing the second half doesn't make it super recognizable as the song Mary Had a Little Lamb? You could just change the title of the video to Little Lamb as a hint, or something just as telling like Fleece as White as Snow. There was no excuse for an oversight on a crucial puzzle piece that was so easy to fix. You should have recut the video, put in a new link, and taken care of this ahead of time. I highly encourage patching it in the next update as a first priority. Relying on someone scrolling down to catch a comment for a timestamp when the onus was on you to provide only the necessary section is the kind of Game Master mistake that really frustrates players. Fix it up, and future players will have a much easier time, especially when the workstation run in the Plaza is going to be brutal on them. Now, returning to the experience review and the topic of audio on Layer 3, let's talk about a subtle but brilliant touch for stimulating tension. This hallway. Connor's warning notes before do give you a touch of priming, but the actual makeup of the hallway and the audio is what brings the tension back into the picture. The hangman game for Brandon, the urgent messages to stop, and again, that audio. I cannot stress enough how potent the audio is in this game. I think it's the hitmaker of the entire design in terms of ensuring you will be afraid and stay afraid. Audio work in Shipwrecked 64 is superb. That becomes clearest when you enter Layer 3, the Land of Darkness, but the first half's fear factor is mainly visual. And here's a fun note. Stumbler's Guide, while being very helpful, serves as the meanest primer of all in terms of establishing terror. Before the whole puzzle-solving adventure of the 2 gate control areas you need to hit, or possibly 3 depending on if you get stuck or just like exploring, in this entire zone, there is no threat. You will encounter no monsters, no scares. The only goosebumps-making section is here, due to the audio, and other sudden ambient noises that make you freeze. You have no idea where the sound is coming from or what it means. You just know you don't like it and you want to get in and out quickly. By the way, in this spot, it's coming from Starling Walter haunting one position way to the left, only visible if you really move around and spot him, which could scare players even more as they understand there is now a threat. Mostly though, this half of Layer 3 is spotless. It's creepy, it's dark, it brings you into new areas you don't know, and it does so after giving you a website that tells you there are monsters down here. You've been warned. Here are monsters. Watch out. And area by area, you explore, being cautious, learning about hiding in barrels, collecting lore, looking carefully around corners, and you don't meet any monsters. You become fixed on the puzzle solving. You get into a groove of listening to logs. So what happens? You get to a level of comfort again, and this is a dangerous level of comfort because you're in a scary place and feel you've got the hang of it and can handle the atmosphere. You haven't seen a damn thing, and when you enter the next zone, you've largely forgotten about the Starlings. You just know you need to explore now. This is where Squeaks laid the ultimate trap. You can see you're in a big strange area now, and that old spooky unfamiliarity comes back, but you're on a roll. You have confidence along with uncertainty, so you get moving. You get to explore a while, and then you hear the odd sounds. But you've heard odd sounds this entire game, right? Odd sounds don't mean anything. It's ambience, right? Just trying to put you on edge. The very first time I heard Olive sounds, I slowed down to observe them. Then I saw her move into the black bar on the side of the screen, and I watched her fade in, transfixed, disturbed, seeing something that shouldn't be happening come into view, instantly on edge, finally realizing as she turned to face me what I was looking at, and then the jump scare struck. I barely had time to go from realizing I was in danger and needed to brace myself to being hit full force and then sprinting, screaming to a barrel, while duck and cover played, loud and anxious, the screen tearing. I haven't been scared that good by a game in ages. I did not leave the barrel I hid inside of for minutes while I just collected myself and realized that the monsters were finally out to play. And I'd only just met one, and this was a big area and I didn't know my way. And no, that Plaza map did not help, and you know what? Maybe even that was meant to contribute to the fear factor. It does nothing for you. And you know why I stayed in that barrel? Because Olive came back into the side of the screen looking for me again, and I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, that's when I learned you need to be in the barrel before she comes looking. The barrel means she can't see you. I was safe. But wow. The way I was so exhilarated and terrified to move at the same time. The sheer insanity of that kind of fluid 3D model movement contrasting with the regular graphics of the game. The way it came in from an area of the screen I'd completely forgotten hours ago could even be used. And the way the model looked as it chased me. Absolute top-tier design work. Everything you experience up to this point is a series of peaks and valleys for tension and scares. You go from comfort to fear, back to some kind of comfort, to fear again, and it teaches you what can and can't happen to you. You can be put on edge by the audio, knowing scary things can appear, but you can't be hurt. There's no enemy to run from. Stumbler's Guide warns you when entering Layer 3 there are monsters now. And then you forget about them and get comfortable again. You get confident. You move into a new area and have time to explore it a bit and establish that you're okay here too. Scary place, creepouts can happen. This game can shock and startle you, but you've managed up to here. You know what can and can't happen to you, right? You've got this. And then the Starlings happen, and your confidence is laid to waste. Crushed into dust while you shake inside a barrel knowing that was only 1 out of 3, and you don't know what else is in store for you. Magnificent. Every element of what was needed for a damn good, fully earned scare was here, and its delivery was insidious. The way each monster works, too, is insidious. You need to figure it out and survive the shocks along the way. And writing out the sounds, never knowing if they're really that close until you study them, and which one is Olive, and if you've got time to throw yourself into a barrel. This is so tense. All of that, mixed with the difficulty of this area, is what's going to make or break you as a player. And if you beat this stage, nothing will stop you from wanting to go the distance. This is gonna make you a horror game player. Blot's mechanics are different too, and involve an inversion of Olive's that brings a new form of audio scare. The sudden silencing of the music. A moment of silence has never made such a panic-inducing experience, and when it first happens in a place as serene and clean as this, you realize that Squeaks got you again. Can it get old as you play the game more and learn their mechanics, trying to beat one part? Of course. This happens with every single horror game ever made. You'll learn the area, find out your objective, learn the monsters, and through consistent exposure, overcome the fear. Until the next area, where you're no longer so sure of yourself. Like when Bucky enters the picture in the sewers, and now you know you've got to deal with him too. And the way he'll stare at your barrel as he passes you by, knowing you're in there, but not acting. That is so unsettling. And let's give it up for this factor. One of the greatest moments I've ever witnessed in the wake of Five Nights at Freddy's when it comes to inspiration over imitation. All these monsters include the same hunting pattern ideas that Scott Cawthon introduced to the game scene, but done in such different ways, under such different circumstances, that it feels like new. This is what I mean every time I say inspiration, not imitation. Squeaks learned effective hunting monsters from Scott, then applied the lessons differently, mixing in unique concepts to generate a different experience while hitting with the same intensity, but in a way that is entirely Shipwrecked 64. Absolute top shelf victory in learning from your inspirations, A+. And now, at last, the portion of this video that I want everyone who has ever tried to do anything to pay attention to most. On January 1st, 2024, Shipwrecked 64 in its definitive edition was released on Steam. On February 1st, 2022, I received an email for Broadside Beach as a submission to the Nightmind Index. It has been over 2 years since I got that email. And at the time, looking at the links provided in that email, I knew the project had been in development much longer than the start of 2022. The earliest video you can find on Squeaks the Corgi's channel related to Broadside Beach is the Lost Media Collection teaser trailer from April 20th, 2021. Getting close now to 3 years ago. The actual content of that video, the launch to Broadside Beach's first incarnation as a video series, is unavailable to view. I have seen it. There's still enough material public for me to make the necessary points, though. Over the months that followed the first presentation of the Broadside Beach idea, there were several uploads comprised of a lot of material in the vein of investigation videos on the defunct park Broadside Beach, mixed in with footage of development for Five Nights VR fan games, as Squeaks learned Unreal Engine and game development. The videos produced from the early days and up to the point of submission to the index were, well, here. You're seeing the visuals from the second Lost Media Collection teaser. It's very different from what we know of Shipwrecked 64, and in terms of style and choices, it's exactly what it looks like. A novice's first attempt to make an unfiction project. Even the use of teasers for something that has no hype by a brand new creator with no following at the time is indicative of a novice's understanding of this kind of work, but also their excitement, which does make one smile. When it comes to the video that has been made unavailable, it illustrated precisely what can be said of the material in this phase, which is what gave me the impression I had at the time. There's potential here, there's something here, but it's not at the quality it can be. Yet. A lot of the early work is an attempt to tell the story through video means, but contained a lot of moments overplaying elements and being too eager to try style and atmosphere without writing logic. It was all of the love of the concepts attached to something like Broadside Beach and Studio Grounds, as well as the sinister history of the company, but without the maturity and experience to nail the execution of these elements in harmony while achieving believability. It was young work by a young creator, whose passion and skill in technical aspects was very clear, but the understanding of how and why these stories work was still developing. And here's the thing. Squeaks is very well aware of this, according to the description for the Broadside Beach playlist. The series that came before Shipwrecked 64. I'm not as proud of this series as I used to be, admittedly. I'm keeping this up only because people don't like it when I take down my videos, like I did with Broadside Beach 1. I don't like this series anymore, and I want Shipwrecked 64 to be the thing that allows me to make the series good again. All creators who are on their best path will have overlap with most creators in one way. They love their new work for 5 hours, and then will have mixed feelings about it for 5 days. This is the step up from where new creators on their best path come from, which is loving their new work for 5 minutes, and then hating it for 5 days. We can, and will, dislike and even be embarrassed about what we made in prior states of evolution. But what makes for productive use of those feelings is the recognition of what worked, what didn't, and how we can go forward making it better and achieving a greater creative victory for our vision. The first footage of the early game presentation of Shipwrecked came out on September 7th, 2021. The last major installment of the videos attempting Broadside Beach was on November 14th, 2021. During this time, Squeaks decided to commit to the Shipwrecked idea, and in that process, must have realized the video approach was not doing the concept justice, or doing justice to himself. Making use of the skill set he'd been developing that was rarer in this field and set him apart, while giving people a more immersive version of the story, would be the greater victory. On February 27th, 2022, he introduced the Shipwrecked teaser for the first playable version of the game. Yes, this exact version. And it launched on July 16th, 2022, totally free. From there, Squeaks went on to work on another game in the Shipwrecked storyline, Cold Case 64, but it wasn't released. Instead, he must have again realized, looking back on his work, that he could do better. Much better. On December 20th, 2022, the Shipwrecked 64 overhaul teaser was uploaded. I want you to look at this timeline, because I need you to understand why I am so proud of this creator, that this script drove me to write 64 pages, and what all of you who are making anything need to keep to heart. April 20th, 2021, the Lost Media Collection teaser trailer. September 7th, 2021, Shipwrecked 64's earliest game footage. November 14th, 2021, last major installment of the videos attempting Broadside Beach as a video series. February 27th, 2022, the Shipwrecked teaser, a complete commitment to a new vision for the project. July 16th, 2022, Shipwrecked version 1 launches, over a whole year past the first attempt at Broadside Beach. It's completely free, and still, after more than a year of work including this, the project did not gain a ton of traction, but 11 days later, on July 27th, 2022, after more than a year and lampshading the whole first wave of content for the project, Squeaks committed to a greater vision and broke through to the tune of 2,000 subscribers. And still, he recognized he could do better. December 20th, 2022, the Shipwrecked 64 overhaul teaser is uploaded. Then, for a solid year, Squeaks worked on this game. An entire year dedicated to making this work, leading to release on January 1st, 2024. And look what's happened. You can't go anywhere in this neighborhood of YouTube without seeing love for Shipwrecked 64, even to the point of being on Game Theory Live twice. As of my writing this, Shipwrecked 64 has over 200 reviews, with majorly positive support. As of my recording this, there are over 300, the status of which, in all reviews, is very positive. A blazingly hard achievement on Steam. I was enamored with this game from the first night I played it. I regard this project so highly that it's going to come up in conversation for years. I had to stop playing the game to actually write this script and make the video, and I missed Shipwrecked 64. I miss it as I speak. I invited moments to pick up the controller and record something I didn't have so I could use it as a visual, because it meant I got to go back. I love this project so much. I'm proud to know that Squeaks submitted Broadside Beach to the index, and I'm even prouder to know that this is what it turned into. And this was the timeline, and what it took for him to make it here. This project went through 2 evolutions, accepting that it just wasn't what it needed to be yet. And despite going through those moments, Squeaks kept going. Imagine all the nights of disappointment, doubt, and disenchantment with his project. Every agonizing hour that something wasn't working, wondering if it was even worth it. And he persevered. And look what happened. And this is why you don't give up. If you love your vision, don't you ever give up. And don't ever settle for less than your own satisfaction with accomplishing that vision. And always know that if you mean it, you will make it. The skills, the time, the resources, don't say that you can't. Be brave enough to give yourself and your art a chance. And then give it another, and see what it grows into. Squeaks DeCorgi is 18 years old. He did all this while in high school, and the last year of development involved graduation. And even through that, look who stuck to his project and is now the biggest name in the field right now and stunning me, Matt Pat, and dozens of other art reviewers online. He started at 15 or 16. Do you know how many teenagers in high school try to make things and get immediately discouraged into giving up for years? Do you know how many look back at what they put into the world, realize it was a juvenile remix of what someone else made, and hide in shame instead of choosing to evolve? Look me in the eye and tell me you can't do that idea you're dreaming of. Squeaks tried twice and got a little further each time, and then doubled down and won on the third attempt. He did not quit. And neither should you. Not now. Not when you finish and realize it's not what you wanted it to be. Not ever. If you love it, you will go the distance. And you will love it even more than you ever have, and become the artist the vision deserved. You will create yourself in the process. The future of horror and unfiction is extremely bright, and it's because of people like Squeaks DeCorgi. And I want you to take away another lesson from all of this. Yes, you can scrap things and relaunch them. You have that ability. I imagine that having disowned the Broadside Beach videos and Shipwrecked 64's first launch but needing to admit it's all canon, Squeaks wants to incorporate the information in his future ROM hack plans, and videos that follow the style and quality we know from Shipwrecked 64's definitive launch. I am so on board with that approach. It is one of the huge reasons I have not given you any of the canon information that I know of. I think it's the right way to go about it, because the definitive Shipwrecked 64 is the quality level as a creator he is at now. If you reach a new weight class as a creator and things start working, and you can bring everything up to your new level, I say go for it. Dedication is another major aspect of this game. And being as dedicated as he was in the writing logic for the design of Shipwrecked has, as I am aware, actually cost Squeaks some playthroughs by people who don't understand how to access the horror element. Some people want it hand-delivered to them. And that's the hell of doing your job right in this field. So be ready for it, all of you who choose the immersive method. If you design with logical writing that will delight your peers who understand immersion and ARGs dedicated to smart execution, you're going to lose a more casual audience. There is no doubt about it. But if you can't stand the idea of weak writing for the sake of getting everyday people from the setup to the scares, then first of all, I'm always going to support you. And second, fuck everyday people. Seriously, you didn't build this for them. And tweaking things to be weaker just to get them in doesn't serve the art, and it's a disrespect to yourself. So honestly, fuck them. You can't make things a total lockbox unless you're building it for the hardcore ARG audience. And I did discuss the points at which Shipwrecked could have been better in clarifying and speeding up past the solutions, especially while being a video game and not the standard ARG experience. But by no means should Squeaks have made the reveal method for the horrors on Layer 1 as easy to access as others may have. Achieving your first failure state could have been rewarded with a small enough hint that it gives the player pause enough to raise their curiosity, maybe. But even then, someone achievement hunting the bad ending in version 1997 would have found it for sure, and then word of mouth would have spread as much as it already has. Counting on word of mouth is never something you want to do when designing your projects in terms of players getting solutions, but it did assist people in this case. I know that I could visit what exists of the canon information for questions we had pertaining to Shipwrecked 64 through the Broadside Beach material in the first version of the game. Like I said, I'm not going to do that. It's as dead to me as it is for Squeaks, because Squeaks has denounced it by making a definitive edition. Squeaks has denounced the Shipwrecked playlist, and I'd much rather see every lore piece come to life through the ways he's going to do it down the road at the skill level he has gained. It's what the project deserves, it's what he deserves, and I'm entirely in support. It's been over a month now since I originally played Shipwrecked 64. And now I don't want to leave. Can you figure that one out? I've even come back to the script multiple times to address different points that came up to me because I just couldn't bear the idea of missing anything. That I didn't do it justice, you know? Have I even hit all the points? I hope so. There was so much I wanted to say. What am I supposed to do at the end of a video again? Of course, thanks to... No, not that. Squeaks the Corgi has made one of the most impressive projects in the field, and will influence many new creators and a whole lot of high school kids who think of doing big things for a long time. Shipwrecked 64 is a prime example of everything that Nightmind stands for, and the best way I could start a whole new year. This video has been worth the time it's taken to make it. I will always smile when I think of this project, and I want it to be known as the testament to perseverance and dedication that it is. Not just to achieving a vision, but to going from a whole lot of influence creativity to becoming the very kind of unique inspiration that impassioned you in the first place. Reboot after reboot, Squeaks evolved. Reboot after reboot, Squeaks persevered. That's a whole lot of growth in just a few years, and so much still ahead. Mark my words. This creator is going to get so good and make new work so scary that it'll be an online event whenever a new game drops. And goddamn do I want a Bucky Beaver t-shirt. It might be too late right now for you to play Shipwrecked 64, seeing as we're at the end of this video. But you can absolutely follow Squeaks the Corgi on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube to stay up to date. Much love to everyone who worked on this project too, and their incredible work. Firecat Productions, Lillian, Sandy, Fresh Decimate, Wiz Willpower, Magicum, Maddie Braps, Kitsumosh, Lorenzo Unrubia, Azura Ring, Panku, Kyler Kersey, Ty Coker, Midnight Mousings, and Thinglet. You have, of course, helped create something amazing. Thank you, all of you, for your efforts in bringing us Shipwrecked 64. And thanks for believing in a kid with big dreams who was giving it his all. Thanks to Squeaks the Corgi for making Shipwrecked 64, and for never giving up. Thanks to all of you for watching, and to all of my supporters on Patreon, who were patient as always while I worked on this very large video, giving me the ability to do Nightmind and run the Nightmind Index, where Shipwrecked 64 first appeared as Broadside Beach. That's all for tonight, everyone. Thanks for joining me in the dark again this evening. Once more, I'm Nick Nocturne, and like the passion for an idea that's worth your efforts, you'll be seeing me again real soon. Until next time, remember to think outside the box and sleep tight.